All right, so just give me 1 sec. Let me wait for some people to jump on YouTube and tell me if they hear me. Then, or we just go on my Facebook. So many people who were on YouTube and who jump across on Facebook. You'll try YouTube again and tell me if you're hearing me now. I see one person on YouTube. I restarted the stream, so you could just let me know. Wazid, are you hearing me? Okay, great. I don't know what happened there. Right, and I think the people on Facebook here, right. Okay, good. I don't know what happened there, guys. That's strange that you weren't hearing either Facebook or YouTube. That doesn't usually happen. Has never happened before, in fact, actually. Right. All right, someone is saying they're not seeing me on YouTube. Are you all seeing me as well? Okay, great. Thanks out there. All right. So, morning, guys. I agree with you, Joycelyn. Stress. Right. So, morning to all of you guys again. Great. So, we had to jump straight into it. So, I was saying, it seems every time I travel that, so then that means that, so was either saying, seeing and hearing you, but dark. Yeah, the lighting here is a bit of a challenge. So, yeah. So, some people saying they're not seeing, but the lighting isn't the greatest here. It's better, I think, on it might be better on Facebook. People on Facebook, you're seeing me? Just now, you know what? That's what I should probably do. Just now. Give me 1 sec. Right. Yeah, it would look a little blurry on YouTube because of the lighting. So, right, it says much better. I think the contrast of the two lighting. Yeah. So, yeah, guys. So, morning to all of you guys on Facebook, all of you guys on YouTube. And I was making the point, it seems every time I travel, always has some bacchanal taking place in Trinidad. So I've been monitoring, and I saw the developments with the Commissioner of Police. A most unfortunate development indeed. But there seems to be a whole lot of conflicting information around that. There's speculation that she may have been set up and so on. So that is still a developing topic. So, yeah, guys. So I would look blurry on YouTube, unfortunately, today. Right, but can't be helped, is the lighting. So let me just touch on a couple of things before I get into the main issue. So there was an article in yesterday's newspaper, which some people may have missed. I saw it posted on CNC3's Facebook page, I think it was. Let me just get this here. Right. Venezuela frees 6 Americans following meeting with Maduro and Trump's envoy. And needless to say, when one reads the comments, you would think people would be happy for a headline like that, right? Well, not for some of the UNC supporters. Far from it. So let me just jump in the article quickly. So it says 6 Americans who had been detained in Venezuela in recent months were freed by the government of President Nicolas Maduro after he met Friday with a Trump administration official tasked with urging the authoritarian leader to take back deported migrants who have committed crimes in the United States. US President Donald Trump and his envoy for special missions, Richard Grenell, announced the release of 6 men on social media. The visit by Grenell came as a shock to many Venezuelans who had hoped that Trump would continue the maximum pressure campaign he pursued against Maduro during his first term. Grenell's hours-long trip to Venezuela, according to the White House, was focused on Trump's effort to deport Venezuelans back to their home country, which currently does not accept them, and on the release of the detained Americans. "We are wheels up and headed home with these 6 Americans," Grenell posted on X, along with a photo showing him and the men aboard an aircraft. And they just spoke to @real Donald Trump, and they couldn't stop thanking him. The meeting in Venezuela's capital took place less than a month after Maduro was sworn in for a third 6-year term, despite credible evidence that he had lost last year's election. And the US government, along with several other Western nations, does not recognize Maduro's claim to victory. Venezuela state television aired footage of Grenell and Maduro speaking in Miraflores Palace and said the meeting had been requested by the US government. Signing an executive order in the Oval Office on Friday, Trump was asked if Grenell being filmed meeting with Maduro lent legitimacy to a government that Trump's White House does not officially recognize. So Trump went on to say, "No, we want to do something with Venezuela. I've been a very big opponent of Venezuela and Maduro. And they've treated us with not so good, but they've treated us more importantly, the Venezuelan people very badly." So that's Mr. Trump's position, right? So it's a far cry from what some people were hoping for, because it seems that Mr. Trump may not be as adverse to dealing with Venezuela as some people thought, which is good news for us. Because if Mr. Trump is planning to deport at least 600,000 Venezuelans back to Venezuela, you would want to, be on kind of good terms with Mr. Maduro, because Maduro is not afraid to oppose. Okay? And it's not like you have the facility of sanctions, as was the case with Colombia last week when they refused to accept deportation flights. And Mr. Trump decided to threaten Colombia with sanctions and tariffs and visa restrictions for government officials. He does not have that facility with respect to Venezuela, because they already have a whole set of sanctions on Venezuela anyway. So what else can you do other than to try to depose Mr. Maduro? But the better thing to do would be to engage him from a diplomatic standpoint, which he seems to be doing, right? Now, I'm sure they understand too, if you send 600,000 at least Venezuelans back to Venezuela, and you impose even harsher sanctions on Venezuela, which would make it difficult for Venezuelans to be able to have some sort of a comfortable living, then you're just creating an environment that is going to encourage them to want to come back to the United States. So it's in Mr. Trump's immigration policy's best interest to try and treat with Maduro in a certain way. In fact, his Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, has been talking more about putting back certain harsh sanctions on Cuba as opposed to Venezuela. Right? So he's been talking more about Cuba than he has been talking about Venezuela within recent times, which is interesting because Marco Rubio, as we know, has been a staunch critic and opponent of the Maduro regime. So as I said, when I'm reading the comments under this article, you know who not supporting and all who, but I thought they had a bounty on Maduro head for 25 million and thing a chop, and why are they talking to this man? Dragon gas. Anything that could give this administration any type of upper hand or fillip in the coming election, we know the other side will not be pleased. But these people need to be reminded that you are citizens of Trinidad and Tobago first, before you are supporters of the UNC. So calling for sanctions and you're hoping that things would go in such a way to mash up the Dragon gas deal speaks volumes. And that is coming not from the PNM side, but the other side. But then they call themselves patriots, right? I note that Kevin Ramnarine, let me get it here. because he likes to post up certain things. Let's see if we have it here. Come on 1 second. Right. Interestingly, yeah, these people. He didn't post up that story yesterday. I wonder why. This is the man who is hoping to be, hopefully, the country's next, for him, hopefully the country's next Minister of Energy. And he loves to post up stuff that is perceived to be negative. So I was surprised that he didn't post this up. But then again, I'm not surprised, because that is the type of story that boosts optimism, that maybe there's still a hope for the Dragon Gas deal, that maybe Mr. Trump would be willing to, lend a listening ear. Because he also posted on his Twitter account, formerly Twitter, now X, about this particular thing. So clearly he was aware of it, clearly he was looking at it, clearly he had an interest in it, right? He doesn't seem to be too high-handed so far. And let us not forget that Nicolas Maduro is also very good friends with Vladimir Putin, who is Mr. Trump's good friend as well. I wouldn't be surprised if Mr. Maduro were to reach out to his friend Putin and ask him, hey, talk to Donald and tell him, ease me up now. You want to send back all these people, right? The people need to eat, they need to live, and if it is you put harsher sanctions on the country, you're just making it difficult for yourself, because they will just want to go back. So, now there's more I could tell you on that with respect to that particular development, but I can't. I could, but I can't. I can't for right now, okay? But just note, how should I put it? No, let me don't say it. Let me don't say it. I can't. But anyway, I went to the wisest official. We're going to leave that there. So I saw that the UNC met with the IMF over the last few days. Let me just pull this up right here. So let me get right. So included. UNC meets with IMF, discusses Forex and Dragon Gas. They met with the IMF to discuss Dragon Gas, of all things. A delegation from the opposition, UNC, raised concerns about the country's foreign exchange challenges and the status of the Dragon Gas project during a meeting with representatives from the IMF as part of the Article 5 consultation process for Trinidad and Tobago. The opposition delegation comprised members of Parliament, Dr. David Lee, who is currently before the courts on $1 million bail for fraud, conspiracy, and misbehavior in public office. But that is who the leader of the opposition saw fit to send talk to the IMF. Okay. Devindranath Tanku, as well as Senator Wade Mark and Chief Economist Swanjali Prasad. The IMF delegation was led by Mr. Camilo Tovar Mora, Deputy Unit Chief of the Caribbean Division. During the meeting, the opposition raised several critical issues affecting the economy, including the ongoing foreign exchange crisis, the country's escalating debt levels, rising crime rates, declining business confidence in the economy. Take note that declining business confidence. So it's the economy. They were specific to say declining business confidence in the economy, even though anybody who is moving around the country would see something different with the amount of new businesses that are being opened. In fact, the president of the Greater San Fernando Chamber of Commerce, in an interview with, I think it was the Express or the Guardian, one of them, just a couple of weeks ago, was saying there are more businesses opening now in San Fernando than there are businesses closing. And if you go around, and I keep telling you all, when you go in heading central, south, in Asalura Maya Road, from the Ministry of Agriculture, go all the way down to Price Plaza, look at the number of new malls that are opening up there. And look how quickly these new malls are being tenanted, right? Being tenanted. These people are not going to spend their money to build a mall and hope that people come and rent space. A lot of these spaces are already filled up. Between 2010 to 2015, were these malls there? You have Extra Foods Plaza, you have M6 Plaza, Pennywise Plaza, all these different things that were not there. Is that a sign of declining business confidence in the economy? Well, depends on who you listen to, right? A significant drop in foreign direct investment, the polarization of the economy, absence of real-time reliable independent statistics to facilitate proper decision-making, concerns regarding the status of drug and gas and the implications of the US Trinidad and Tobago relationship on the nation's economic stability. The opposition emphasized the urgency of addressing these challenges and expressed hope that the concerns raised would be thoroughly considered and reflected in the IMF's final report, which is expected to be published in mid-2025, it stated. The UNC said it remains committed to advocating for policies that promote economic stability, growth, and the well-being of all citizens. In other words, we find the last few reports of the IMF have been too positive for Trinidad and Tobago, right? And we felt that we needed to make an intervention to point out all the negative things that you all seemingly not taken into consideration, so that your next report, we could see Trinidad and Tobago receive a downgrade. That's basically what it is, because all of the points I mentioned there just now was negative stuff. They see absolutely nothing positive happening, and they are probably upset at this constant, the fact that at least some of the ratings remain stable, right, or unchanged, or on occasion, because when we look at Moody's and so on, and we see some improvements in the country's ratings, they probably felt they needed to make this intervention to try and change that, so that the next report that we get in by May, hopefully we will see, for them, Trinidad and Tobago gets a rating downgrade from the IMF. And these are the people who are telling you, put them back into office later this year, right? These are the people who are referring to themselves as the government in waiting. But you're calling for sanctions on one side. You're meeting with the IMF and other rating agencies to give bad news, right? To paint a negative picture. Basically to tell them, here, what nice you will hear from the government. It's not so, you know. They're making it look rosy, but it's not so. So this is our position. And as they said, they hope to see it reflected in the findings of the next report, a downgrade and probably, you know. But bear in mind, right, that these credit ratings report play a significant role in terms of our international credit rating when it is that we have to borrow money. And when the people who are telling you that they know better and they could run the country better and put them back are doing everything possible, not to benefit the country, but to make the ruling party look bad, so that when the elections come, citizens would say, yeah, we need to look at an alternative. But you need to look at what the alternative is doing. Sabotage, undermining, only painting a negative picture. Not real, no, well, they fully realize, but I don't know what the end game is, because when you do things like this, they don't know when the election is going to be called, when in this year. So when it is that you do things like this, suppose they did this, they met, put the information out there, and let's say Dr. Rowley decides he's going to, well, whoever, Stuart Young, decide election is in May, before the report comes out. And then the report is published after, and let's say the UNC wins and they come into power. They would be receiving a report that is going to do damage to them and to their governance, at least in the first year. And I have not heard them articulate any plans or policies to tell me how they plan to turn around all of the things that they claim happening in the economy and otherwise. But put them back, right? Put them back. And the supporters are happy with stuff like that. When this government, this administration is trying to do everything in their power to fix things. Yeah? And it's basically everything that is being done is being undermined by the other side. Imagine they opened nominations for candidates in January of 2024. Nominations closed off in April of 2024. And to date, they have named eight candidates. They have 8 candidates out on the ground. The PNM opened nominations in October last year. And here we are, 37 candidates already selected, but just 4 more to go, the 3 Diego Martin seats and Kumuto Manzanilla. They can't even run an election properly, an election campaign. No doubt they're probably having challenges in getting candidates for some of these seats, particularly in those seats that they know they can't win. So why would people come forward to offer themselves, to put out money to run for a seat that you know you can't win? And then after the election, we're going to hear the usual cry. The party had promised to give them money for this and money for that, and they owe everybody under the sun, and the party has abandoned them. It has happened to enough people so much so that they're not going to come forward again to go through that. So all this thing about we choosing and we taking our time to make sure we offer you the best of candidates. Really? Really? So you are happy and content to continue along that trajectory while the PNM's candidates are out in the field and have a distinct advantage, right? Distinct advantage. Or maybe their end game, their plan is, well, they could count on 18 solid seats and they're hoping for just 3 more. I don't know. But this is certainly, if this is how you're running an election campaign, for me, it speaks volumes about how you would run the country after, right? Sheer incompetence. But anyway, I move on. For the persons who are business owners and who may be owing taxes, tax amnesty and property tax deadlines have been extended again. The tax amnesty is on track to become the highest in the country's history, with the government collecting $2.38 billion in revenue as of Monday, Finance Minister Colin Mimbert has said. Compared to previous years, the current tax amnesty is now on par with the 2019 tax amnesty, which was the most successful tax amnesty granted in the history of Trinidad and Tobago in terms of collections, and it is now likely that the current 2024-2025 tax amnesty will exceed the collections in 2019, Mimbert stated in a release issued yesterday. I remember in 2019, the taxes collected, that amnesty was for about 3 months, and they collected $2.4 billion. Mr. Mimbert was expecting to collect $500 million. He collected almost 5 times that in a 3-month period. All right? So it goes to tell you the type of tax evasion that is currently taking place out there. That so far, 2.38 billion has been collected, and it has been extended again to, I think, the end of March, which means more than likely you're going to surpass that 2.4 for 2019. So almost 2.5, who knows, we might make it to 3 billion in taxes that was outstanding. Tax delinquency. We would have heard last year about 2 prominent businessmen who were owing the government. One was owing something like $95 million in taxes, and another one $34 million. Right? Now, this is an opportunity for them to take advantage of this tax amnesty. But let us not forget that when the debate came up in Parliament about this issue of the tax amnesty, let us not forget who was against it, right? Speaking on behalf of the opposition was Devendranath Tanku, who's supposed to be an economist. And he spent his entire 45 minutes talking about the amnesty and how the government encouraging slackness and encouraging people to break the law and not pay the taxes and not have to face penalties and so on. But $2.38 billion and more to come, that's a lot of money. A lot of money which the government needs. Because we always want more, and we want more of this and more of that, and this not working, and the roads need to pay, and the hospital bad, and this requires money. Especially at a time when oil and gas prices were down and oil and gas production went up. The minister didn't have a crystal ball to see how much taxes would be collected. But people are taking advantage of it. And so that's an additional $2.38 billion that he has collected that he could use to do other things. But again, I remind you, who was against it, who argued against it, who was complaining about it and griping about it in the parliament and outside of the parliament as well. The same people who telling you put them back into office and give them another chance, and they are the government in waiting. The same people who to date have not been able to articulate how they're going to generate revenue when they come into office. What we do know is that they're going to cut current revenue streams, which is critical to the treasury, such as corporation tax. I keep telling you all, they plan to cut it from 30% and 35% for banks to 18%. And it is in their National Economic Transformation Plan. So this is not just me making things up, right? You could go on the internet, pull up Google, UNC National Economic Transformation Plan, and you will see it all there. But there is very little speaking to how they're going to generate revenue. Other than they would look at those state enterprises which are, according to them, a drain on the treasury, and they will invite the private sector to take over these companies, to manage these companies however they see fit, and the government will benefit from dividends and taxes. And we know when private sector takes over public sector companies, first thing to go, when they talk about restructuring, first thing to go is jobs, downsizing. Okay, so when they're promising that they will create 55,000 jobs, but are more than open to review all of those public sector companies that they claim are a drain on the treasury, serve no strategic importance to the state, and they will invite the private sector to come in and take, whether it's the local private sector or the foreign private sector. They didn't specify. But yet still, when it is that the government, the current administration, talks about a public-private partnership with respect to management of the port, they have a problem with that. Yeah. Right? $2.38 billion so far collected in outstanding taxes, tax delinquency. And yet still they are against the Revenue Authority, which is supposed to plug the leaks and the loopholes that is resulting in all of these taxes being outstanding. And I'm sure there's a lot more out there. But they are against the Revenue Authority. So allow the status quo to continue. You know why? Because some of their financiers are the guilty parties, not paying the taxes, engaging in tax evasion. And so we don't want an efficient tax collection system that is going to make it more difficult for their financiers to be able to avoid paying taxes. And I always talk, whenever I talk about this, you all know, I always give the example where David Abdullah is on record as having said that a former People's Partnership Minister of Finance told him that on average, Trinidad and Tobago loses about $7.5 billion a year from tax evasion. And when Abdullah asked the minister, so why don't you all do something about it? The minister's response was, we can't because it's our people doing it. And I could say that here because David Abdullah has repeated that on numerous occasions. Right? But it's out there. So for those of you who know you're owing on your taxes, you're owing, I think this may extend to the NIS, because remember they're offering a waiver of penalties and interest for persons who are delinquent in paying your NIS contributions. Employers, that is. You still have an opportunity until the end of March. So take advantage of it, please. If you know you have not filed your tax returns and so on, because the penalties are hefty for that and the interest, call your accountant and do something. You have a 2-month grace period, extended. Okay, contribute to the coffers now, please. All right. So in the interest of time, so I just took a quick glance at Ralph Maraj's article in today's Express. And I'm not surprised, as I told you all last week. 1 week is bash Rowley, bash Imbert, bash the government, and then the next week, when something comes up that would warrant him talking about the opposition leader, he goes on and he talks about the United States and China and what's happening in the Middle East and Palestine and Israel and so on. And then once the 9 days pass, and so he comes back again, bash Rowley, bash Imbert, bash the PNM, bash the government. And true to form, today's article does just that. Yeah, just that. So when it is that he needed to comment on Mrs. Prasad Bissasa's statement with respect to her support for the Trump administration, but more than that, her stinging criticism of the recently demitted Biden administration, calling the Biden administration a disaster, right? And many people said that that was a diplomatic faux pas on her part. We have no problems with her saying that, but you cannot say that in your capacity as leader of the opposition. If you are a private citizen, Kamala Prasad Bisasa, no problem. You could say what you want. Say it where you want to. But so long as you hold the position of leader of the opposition and you hope to get back into office as prime minister later on this year, you need to temper the things that you see. And Mrs. Prasad Bisasa would have gotten significant criticism from several quarters, a lot of whom were very objective, right? Non-partisan. And what did she do? Rather than just hush your mouth and let the 9 days wonder take its course, you decide to double down and to list 20 points on which you criticize the former Biden administration without taking into consideration that notwithstanding that there is a change of administration in Washington, that you still have employees here in the US Embassy and other US agencies that are based here, some of these workers supported the Biden administration, right? But she didn't care. But did Ralph Maraj take her to task and not? Oh no, that didn't warrant a whole article. But I bet you, had it been Dr. Rowley, it would have been a totally different story. We would have heard about how he's uncouth and he doesn't understand the intricacies of diplomacy. He wrote extensively when it is that Dr. Rowley had responded to certain comments that had been made by former Trump ambassador to Trinidad and Tobago, Joseph Mondello, when he came here. And he made certain things, certain comments which Dr. Rowley took issue with and made no bones about stating that. Ralph Maraj spoke about that and he continues to speak about that to this day. But he gave Mrs. Prasad-Bissessar a free pass by using last week when he should have commented on it in his article to talk about the Trump administration and, blah, 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 and all that kind of thing and the implications for. And so now that the furor over Mrs. Prasad-Bissessar's faux pas has seemingly died down, going back to bash Rowley, bash the PNM, bash the government. And I see Mr. Martin Daly has also joined in as well. These men and women of letters also joined in. But we will deal with that probably Tuesday. No, not Tuesday. Thursday. Right? Because I'll be back home on Tuesday. So we will deal with that on Tuesday. I'm not guaranteeing Tuesday. All right. So, because remember, we are 1 hour behind you guys there. So in the interest of time, let me deal with the other issue. So the Privy Council last week handed down its ruling with respect to the appeal by the Auditor General, Jaywanti Ramdas, challenging the decision of the cabinet to conduct an investigation, a probe into what led to the understatement of the government's revenue for 2023 by some $3.3 billion. We're all familiar with the whole saga and so on. But I've been monitoring and reading the comments of the wider citizenry in respect of that, and I've been able to determine two things. One, the wider population don't have a clue as to what that matter was about, what that case was about. Right? And two, there is urgent need for that issue to be resolved pronto. I am amazed that that is still an issue, still a talking point. We know a lot of us are intellectually lazy and will not take the time to just go and do the research. You have the Headline Readers Association of Trinidad and Tobago. That's the people who go on social media and they see a headline and they don't even bother to click the link and read the story. You jump in the comments and start to bash the government, right? And then you're reading those of us who will take the time to just click the link and read the story that might be about 3 minutes or less. And all we have to be doing is commenting. You didn't read the article. Clearly, you didn't read the article because your comments indicate you did not read the article. And it is unfortunate that those who know better, the men and women of letters, as referred to them by former President Carmona, who should be coming out and using the space that they have in the newspapers and other publications to explain to the wider population what that matter was about, are themselves either sitting on the sidelines or encouraging the foolishness. And it adds to the deception of the opposition. Because throw your minds back to when this issue first arose back in April of last year. And on the face of it, there was the perception that $3.3 billion was stolen. Don't know how that perception came about because to me, Minister Imbert was pellucidly clear in his explanation in the parliament when he came to the parliament seeking an extension of time for the Auditor General to conduct a thorough audit to resolve that matter. But, the propaganda mill talking about 3.3 billion missing and the thief 3.3 billion and all of that. Rudal Munilal, who would have been among the first of the opposition entities to speak on that issue at the waste of time Sunday morning press conference, the 1.5 question press conference. On a lucky day, they will get 1.5 questions. On other days, they might get 1/4 question. And that's somebody that they set up to come and ask that question. Right? When he spoke about the issue, didn't make any allegations of any money stolen. To me, he characterized it perhaps in the best way that one could have, based on the utterances of the Auditor General. And he said that the government misrepresented the figures and that Imbut inflated the revenue figures to make it look as if it is the government was doing better than it did, as if the economy was performing better than it did, by stating that you earned 64 billion in revenue instead of 61. And to quote Munilal, Imbut trying to cook the books. Cook the books. He said that. He never said any money stolen. Never made that allegation. But as time progressed and they realized that that thief money narrative resonated with some people, he abandoned his original characterization of the situation. And he too jumped on the bandwagon about money missing and money unaccounted for, and the government can't account for $3.3 billion, when nothing could be further from the truth. And again, these are the people who are telling you put them in office. That when you have to rely on dishonesty and propaganda, lies, to be able to get into office, it tells you a lot. It speaks volumes as far from where I sit. So let me just elucidate a little bit on this judgment, because people seem to be only focusing on the comments of one person, one of the law lords, because this matter was deliberated on by not one, but 5 law lords, 3 of whom were lords and 2 ladies. And one lady similar. In this clip that is going around, there's a clip with Desmond Douglas Menz, who represented the state, and an exchange between himself and Lady Simler, in which Lady Simler raised the issue about, so why isn't the minister being investigated? Investigated for what? Investigated for what? Because if you read the judgment, she is suggesting that Minister Imbut should be part of the probe, which he and the cabinet would have initiated because, according to her, for his conduct. What conduct? As Minister Imbut has gone to pains to point out, he only became involved in the issue after the public servants, the most senior of whom was the permanent secretary, made countless attempts to reach out to the Auditor General for guidance on how they should proceed following their discovery of this underestimation of the revenues. Mr. Imbut is on record on numerous occasions as saying that what was reported to him was that the permanent secretary in the Ministry of Finance would have made efforts to call the Auditor General, sent emails to the Auditor General, WhatsApp messages were sent to the Auditor General, and they were all ignored. The calls were not returned. She didn't even have the common decency to acknowledge receipt of the emails and the like. And it was out of frustration that the public servants, understanding the seriousness of the matter, went to the minister, hoping to use the weight of his office to be able to reach out to the Auditor General to try and have the matter resolved. All right? That is when he became aware and became involved in the matter. And so now we have claims from the Auditor General stating that Mr. Imbut tried to bully her and force her into changing the accounts and all of these different things. She made those claims, but it is of note that the claims that she was not answering calls and not responding to emails and so on, she has never denied that. And so the purpose of the probe, among other things, is to get the Auditor General to answer to those claims. If it is untrue, then say so. If it is true, you need to explain why weren't you taking the calls, why weren't you responding to the email messages and so on such a serious matter at the country's revenue position by some underestimation of some $3.3 billion. But the Auditor General is trying to avoid having to answer those questions, and that is what this whole judgment was about. She is saying, have a pro bono. Just don't put me in it. To ask me no questions and answering nothing, and I don't think I should be part of anything, and my conduct in this whole matter ought not to be interrogated. And she took it to the court, basically asking the court, hey, what? Either you all could quash the probe altogether, or take me out of it. That's essentially what it is. So she is running from answering questions. And Lady Simler was simply saying, when she talked about investigating the minister's conduct, is in response to claims by the Auditor General that Mr. Imbut tried to bully her and force her into doing his bidding with respect to making amendments to the records. And the law lords are saying, listen, the only way that the full truth could come out with respect to this is that this matter needs to go to a full trial so that all the parties involved could come on the stand and be interrogated. So if the Auditor General is making claims that Mr. Imbo tried to bully her and force her to accept the accounts and to make changes and so on, then he would have to come to court and testify and defend himself. And the Auditor General, likewise, would also have to come to court and answer to any allegations and claims made against her by the Minister of Finance and Ministry of Finance officials as well. Right? So the court is not prepared to make a judgment either way on this now with respect to the substantive issue. So what the court has done, what the Privy Council simply did in dismissing the appeal of the Ministry of Finance and by extension the Cabinet of Trinidad and Tobago is now, they have now given the Auditor General the permission or the authority to now come back to the local courts to challenge her inclusion in this probe. So let me just read a little bit further from the actual judgment, right? I'm not going to read much. And this judgment was delivered by Lady Simla. Introduction. So it says here, Jaiwanti Ramdas is the respondent versus the Minister of Finance and another appellant, Trinidad and Tobago. Case summary JCPC 202-40057, parties the appellant, Minister of Finance, Cabinet of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, and Jaiwanti Ramdas. Judgment details, 28th of January 2025. So the proceedings that have given rise to this appeal concern an application for judicial review by the Auditor General of Trinidad and Tobago, the respondent to this appeal against the Minister of Finance and the Cabinet, referred together as the appellants. There is no dispute that the magnitude of the understatement of revenue by the Ministry of Finance and the circumstances that led to it raise serious matters of public concern warranting a full investigation. So the Privy Council agrees with the Minister of Finance that a full investigation is warranted and should take place, because this is no simple matter. This is not $2 or $10 or a shortfall of $1,000 or $10,000. This is $3.3 billion we're talking about here. So they agreed with the Minister and the Cabinet of Trinidad and Tobago that a full investigation must take place and is warranted. The full terms of reference set by the Minister are recorded in paragraph 17 below. The first three of those terms of reference are properly directed to the circumstances surrounding the understatement and are not challenged by the respondent. So in other words, the first three terms of reference in that probe, Jaiwanti don't have a problem with that. Indeed, the board understands that an investigation has proceeded in relation to those terms of reference, and there is no challenge to the investigation team members or their conduct. So in other words, the panel that has been appointed by the Cabinet to conduct the investigation, the Auditor General don't have an issue with that either. But let's say what she does have an issue with, right? The respondent's challenge is limited. Remember, the respondent is the Auditor General. She seeks to quash as unlawful, only those parts of the appellant's decisions that are concerned with the design and implementation of an investigation into her role and conduct as Auditor General in connection with the understatement. So in other words, you see all them things, all they want to investigate, go right ahead. But you see the part where you include me and my name and my office, forget that. Do not come and ask us any questions. Pretend as if we were not a part of this whole thing at all. So you could go and interrogate the minister, you could go and interrogate the workers in the Ministry of Finance and the workers in the Board of Inland Revenue, and anybody else you want to investigate. But you see, when it comes to me, Auditor General Jaiwanti Ramdas, take my name out of that. That is what she went to the Privy Council for. The Privy Council is basically saying they were not asked to make a judgment to take her name out of it. She went to the Privy Council to get permission for them to clear the way for her to come back to the local courts, the High Court of Trinidad and Tobago, so that her matter could be heard, so that either the investigation or the probe could be stopped, or for the court to make a judgment to say, well, go ahead and do your probe, just take the Auditor General out of it. Do not question her conduct. But as I said before, the Auditor General has questions to answer based on allegations made by Minister Imbert that when the public servants first discovered the issue, the understatement, and they approached her for guidance on the way forward, that what we are being told is that she refused to even lend a listening ear. That when efforts were made to submit the corrected or the amended report to her in time for her to be able to do the Auditor General's report that she refused to accept the documentation. And it was only when the Minister of Finance served on her a pre-action protocol letter did she agree to accept the documentation and agreed to send senior auditors to the Ministry of Finance to audit the documents to confirm what was being presented. And she subsequently sent, so the day after she received the pre-action protocol letter, she was able to put together a team of senior auditors and send them down to the Ministry of Finance unannounced to come and audit. To audit what? So your auditors just show up. Yeah, we come to audit. We get a pre-action protocol letter and all I want to, yeah, we reach. So you give me no advance notice to be able to go and gather all of the documents that you need to review and so on. You just show up. Morning. The Auditor General office here. Yeah, Ms. Ramdas sent us to audit. You all didn't think you should give us some kind of heads up so we could prepare the stuff for you? So you reach here now, and you're now telling us what you need, what documents you need, and so on. And you give us 7 days to be able to compile all of this information. And you expect to be able to audit all of this information in 7 days on such a significant matter. And at the end of the 7 days, a report was already prepared, which was adverse to what it is you came to audit. So it tells me that was a whole sham and a farce. It's like, well, here, what we already prepare our report here, and they want to audit, well, I'll go now. Go and review all the documents and so on. But this report that I have here that was already prepared, that's where going. I couldn't care what, they're fine. Subsequent to that, the minister would have gone to Parliament and received a 4-month extension for the submission of the report, giving the Auditor General's department more than enough time for them to come and do their audit. A proper audit, not 7 days, not the fast that was. And it took them almost 2 months to complete that audit. But for some reason, the Auditor General thought it could be done in 7 days. Right? But now she's asking the court to remove her as a subject of the probe. So just to reiterate, the judgment that came from the Privy Council last week has nothing to do with $3.3 billion missing. It has nothing to do with any wrongdoing on the part of the minister. It has nothing to do with any wrongdoing on the part of the ministry. The sole purpose of that case was the Auditor General is attempting to have her name removed as one of the subjects of the investigation, of the probe, and the Privy Council has given way for her to come back to the local courts to get the local court to make such a declaration. But they still have to go through the process. So it is still quite possible that she could come to the local courts and lose the matter, but then they will again start the process again of appeal and appeal all the way up to the Privy Council if she doesn't get satisfaction to have her name removed based on the local courts. So we're still in for the long haul. But the Auditor General would have made a number of claims, right, which Minister Imbert quickly responded to. Let me see if I get this here. All right, where is this? So you all may recall certain parts of her affidavit were published in the Express newspaper sometime last year. And the minister, I think it was in September last year, the minister would have responded to that, right? So for those of you who have short memories, let me remind you. Let me get this here. Yes. Speaking in Parliament on Monday, Finance Minister Colin Imbert said that following the public statements made by the Auditor General concerning her original report in 2023, her baseless assertion that the Ministry of Finance sought to backdate the original 2023 accounts unethically has been thoroughly refuted. The special report does not assist in any way clearing up the main issue in contention, which resulted from an overstatement of tax refunds and a subsequent underreporting of net revenue, leading to a $2.6 billion discrepancy in revenue figures for 2023. Now remember, this is the report after she had the 2 months to do the audit and so on. This is the report that she submitted in September, and the minister is responding to that. Imbert said that the main point of this special report, the expected scope of which was clearly outlined in a letter written by the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Finance to the Auditor General on June 16, 2024, was to clear up that issue. However, instead of confirming that the $2.6 billion discrepancy has been resolved and that there was in fact no missing money the Auditor General has avoided making any definitive statement on that fundamental matter in this special report, and instead has chosen to make caustic remarks about the staff and systems in the Ministry of Finance, Imbo told investigators. So your remit was specific: to do an audit, review the documents, because remember the first time they went to do the audit in April in the 7 days, the claim was that the ministry was unable to provide documentary evidence to support the claim of the additional $3.3 billion in revenue. Now again, for the people who keep repeating 3.3 billion missing, they thief 3.3 billion unaccounted for, let me remind you, it is the government that is saying that for 2023, revenue was 63 billion. The auditor, 64 billion, sorry. The Auditor General is saying, but based on the documentation that I have seen, it was 61. All right? So they see that extra 3.3 billion as a figment of all imagination. You all didn't make no 3.3 billion. That didn't exist. So, to quote Munilal, all you cook the books to make it seem as if you earned 64 billion in revenue, but it wasn't that, it was 61. And the minister is saying, no, it was 64. And the Auditor General is saying, no, it's 61. If you want to convince me that it's 64, present me with the documentary evidence. But you come and expect in 7 days to get that documentary evidence. Right? And it makes no sense all who say they thief 3.3 billion. Really? So the minister thief 3.3 billion. The Auditor General didn't pick it up. And the minister suddenly had an attack of conscience and decided to call the Auditor General and say, hey, I thief 3.3 billion, but I realized you didn't pick it up. So I just call in to let you know I thief 3.3 billion now. Logic. Who does that? How is it even possible to steal $3.3 billion and expect that nobody would realize that? But that is what a lot of citizens basically telling you. The Auditor General didn't pick this up in an audit. It's the minister and the ministry who informed them of the shortage. Who the hell will thief 3.3 billion and then go and tell the authorities you thief 3.3? I realize you didn't pick it up. So I just letting you know now. And you could come and audit, please, just to confirm that I really did thief 3.3 billion. That making sense to some people. That making sense to some people. And you all know I have continued to ask the question. Since the 16th of September, an article was published in the newspaper in which the Auditor General and the Central Bank agreed that they would meet for the purpose of allowing the Auditor General to come and interrogate the electronic check clearing system, which has been identified as the cause of the $2.6 billion revenue understatement. Since September, all that is required to clear up this issue is for the Auditor General and her people to go to the Central Bank, take a look at the electronic check clearing system, which was this new electronic system that was introduced in 2023, I think around March of 2023, before they used to do it manually. The Central Bank identified the issues and errors with the system in its progress report in the 3rd quarter last year. Has that meeting taken place? Because it was a big thing for the Auditor General in her affidavit where she claimed that she approached the Central Bank and requested a meeting to be able to interrogate the check clearing system, and that she was denied access. And they made a big issue about that. So much so that the opposition leaders sought to impugn the integrity of the Central Bank by questioning, so why did they deny the request if they have something to hide and all this kind of foolishness? And the minister, in seeing that, Minister of Finance, would have reached out to the Central Bank governor to inquire about that. I'm seeing here where the Auditor General is claiming that she made a request because I, the Minister of Finance, have put in the public domain that what caused this understatement was the electronic check clearing system. Right? Yes, my ministry has the documentation to prove that, but that is insufficient for the Auditor General because she wants to stick her finger in the womb, you know, like doubting Thomas. He needed to put his finger in Jesus' womb to prove that, to be sure that that was in fact Jesus and it's not some apparition or some trick. So she is not prepared to look at the document. She is not prepared to take the word of the minister. She is not prepared to take the word of her own senior auditors who, upon completion of the audit at the exit meeting sometime in June or July thereabouts, told the staff of the ministry, we are satisfied with the explanation given with the documentation that we have seen. As far as we're concerned, there is no There is no stolen money, no money missing. We are satisfied that the figure that you all have presented to us was in fact the correct figure. But even in the face of that, she continues to dig in her heels. Has this meeting taken place? We don't know. We've not heard from the central bank. We've not heard from the Auditor General. And the media, for some reason, doesn't seem to be interested in asking either of these two parties, did this meeting take place and what was the outcome? Now, I am saying if the meeting did in fact take place, and the Auditor General interrogated the check clearing system, and she was convinced that that is not what happened, then the UNC would have known by now. Because you all would recall that when the 2023 Auditor General's report came out, before it is laid in Parliament, it has to go to the President, the Prime Minister, I believe, and the Speaker of the House, before it is laid in Parliament. So those are the only three people, other than the Auditor General's Department, the only three people who are supposed to have sight of that report: President of the Republic, the Speaker of the House, and I think the Prime Minister. But somehow, even before it was laid in the Parliament, which would then make it open to the public, for even the government ministers and other members of Parliament to see, and by extension, the wider public, the UNC happened to get their hands on a copy of this report and were reading from it with gay abandon. And again, what is interesting is that when they got that report and they went on their Monday night forum meeting to talk about that, they didn't focus on the so-called missing 3.3 billion. Instead, they decided to delve into other things in the report, to talk about some thing that the Ministry of Trade paid for, some 4 hand scanners or something for 26,000 US, and the company turned out to be a bogus company, and the money was stolen or whatever it is. These are the things they choose to focus on, because the report does not support a claim of any stolen 3.3 billion, any missing 3.3 billion, and so on. But I continue. I'm going to continue reading. The Minister of Finance said, however, instead of confirming that the 2.6 billion discrepancy has been resolved and that there was in fact no missing money, the Auditor General has avoided making any definitive statement on that fundamental matter in this special report. He said what is particularly disturbing about the Auditor General's approach to this matter is the fact that at the exit meeting held on July 22nd, 2024, to complete the process of meetings on the special report, the audit team from the Auditor General's Department, which included some of the most senior auditors in that department, openly expressed its satisfaction to the staff of the Ministry of Finance that the adjustment of 2.6 billion was appropriately accounted for. Exit meeting on July 22nd, 2024. Some of the most senior auditors in the Auditor General's Department told the staff at the ministry that based on the audit that we conducted between May and now, we are satisfied that the $2.6 billion adjustment was appropriately accounted for. So it seems the only person in the Auditor General's Department who doesn't think so is the Auditor General. But the people who she sent to the ministry to audit and who would have looked at the documents in detail, they are satisfied that there is no money missing. They are satisfied that the 2.6 billion has been accounted for. But their boss continues to be obstinate. I continue. However, the Auditor General in her audit opinion on page 25 did not state that she was satisfied that the error in the public accounts for the financial year 2023 was corrected. Imbert said, adding, we view this omission on her part as a continuing campaign of non-cooperation and criticism of public officials in the Ministry of Finance by the Auditor General. Imbert told the first sitting of the new parliamentary session that he had also taken note of the screaming headlines in the Sunday Express of September 8, 2024, titled, Central Bank Denied Me Access, regarding an affidavit dated September 5, 2024, filed by the Auditor General in the constitutional matter against the Attorney General over the payment of legal fees to her attorney, the former Attorney General, Annan Ramlogan. He said that the affidavit referenced extracts from the special report, although on September 5, 2024, the special report had yet to be laid in Parliament, and the premature disclosure of its contents is, in our view, a breach of process. This is the second time that a document emanating from the Office of the Auditor General that was supposed to have had limited sight in terms of the persons who could and who are authorized to see that information is coming out in the public domain before the report is laid. Right? Extracts from the special report, you put in an affidavit, and somehow the media was able to get access to that. How? How was the UNC able to get a copy of the Auditor General's report before it was laid in the Parliament, before anybody else could see it? So the UNC had access to it even before the other parliamentarians, and had no qualms about going on their platform and speaking about it. A complete breach of process. But yet still, the Auditor General is saying, "No, I don't want to be part of no probe. Don't include me. I have no questions to answer. I have no cocoa in the sun. Take me out of that probe." But these things continue to happen. I continue. It is clear to us that the premature publication of that emotionally charged affidavit in the Sunday Express was designed to evoke public sympathy, and that it has. He said in the newspaper article on Sunday, Ramdas claimed that the central bank denied her access to the electronic check clearing system, which negatively impacted her ability to perform a proper audit and check of the system, which led to the understatement of some $2.6 billion in revenue. We fail to see the connection between that alleged denial of access to the central bank's computer systems and the confirmation that the $2.6 billion understatement had been resolved as stated by her or the team on July 22nd, 2024. Imbert said, adding, nonetheless, he contacted the governor of the central bank, Alvin Hilaire, on the matter. And he proceeds to say what the central bank governor told him. The governor has informed me, the governor worked with his receipts, unlike the Auditor General, he given date and time. The governor has informed me that following an email request made on June 24th, 2024, by an official of the Auditor General's Department to examine the bank's electronic check clearing system and its Go Anywhere platform, it requested official correspondence from the Auditor General with an outline of the scope of the potential engagement. The central bank also indicated it was open and willing to meet with the Auditor General at any mutually convenient time. But that, it seems, she conveniently forgot to put that in her affidavit. I wonder why. Imbert said he has been advised that to date, while it has received an outline of the scope of the proposed examination from a subordinate in the Auditor General's Department, a subordinate, some low-level functionary, not the Auditor General herself, not the Deputy Auditor General, some low-level functionary in the Auditor General's office sent this missive to the central bank. The bank has not yet received any correspondence from the Auditor General delegating authority to her staff to act on her behalf on this matter, nor has it received a proposed time or date for the earlier requested meeting between the Auditor General and the central bank. Imbert said that the central bank was unable to accommodate the request. Why? Because they're still waiting for information. Now, let me just read something here. Right? The central bank is doing what they're supposed to do. Unlike the Auditor General's Department, they are not about breaching process. And more importantly, process of law. So let me quote for you from the Exchequer and Audit Act. It's important to do that. Section 10.2 of the Exchequer and Audit Act reads, and I quote, "In the exercise of his duties under this Act, the Auditor General or any person duly authorized by him in writing shall have access to all records, books, vouchers, documents, cash stamps, securities, stores, or other state property in the prosecution of any officer, or the possession, of any officer. In the exercise of his duties under this Act, which is the Exchequer and Audit Act, the Auditor General or any person duly authorized by him in writing." The law is pellucidly clear. In writing. They could have left out those two words, and could have read, "In the exercise of his duties under this Act, the Auditor General or any person duly authorized by him shall have access to all records." So there was a reason why the lawmakers, the legislators put in writing. The central bank was still waiting for the Auditor General to indicate in writing who would be coming to interrogate the electronic check clearing system. If she's coming herself, and if she's coming with the team, or is she delegating the Deputy Auditor General and somebody else? But the law says you have to submit this in writing. And in the absence of that, they cannot accede to your request because they would be in contravention of the law, the Audit and the Exchequer and Audit Act. And I don't think the central bank governor wants to make a jail over something so simple. So they would have indicated this to the Auditor General's department, and as what Mr. Imbert indicated here, they're still waiting for a response. Well, up until the point in time in September when this was published. And subsequent to that, we read where the Auditor General and the central bank said they're willing to meet so that she could interrogate the check clearing system and say, well, okay, yes, this is in fact what caused the 2.6 billion under estimation of revenue, and therefore there is no money missing. So all it takes for this matter to be resolved and this chocolate talk in the public domain about money missing and the 2.3 billion unaccounted for is for the Auditor General and her team to go to the central bank, interrogate the system, let central bank tell you, yes, this is what happened, and this is why this happened, or this is what happened, or it didn't happen. Why has that not yet taken place? Or if it has, why has the public not been informed that the Auditor General went to the central bank explained to her, this is what happened, and therefore there is no money missing. Or she went to the central bank and the central bank showed her the system and they say, no, what the minister said didn't happen, so money missing. We don't have an answer either way. And that has allowed the propaganda to continue to persist in the public domain, with citizens leaning on the side of money missing and money thief. And you can't blame them because you're not getting the information to the contrary. Or where the information to the contrary comes out, the media doesn't seem to be interested in focusing on that. With this development last week, with this case, that should have reopened the opportunity for the media to do their work and actually go and find out. So I think I'm going to send a request on WhatsApp to the many, many journalists who somehow got my number and were able to call me to ask me nonsense about how do I feel about the public now finding out that I was a member of the ILP and now I have been selected by the PNM to contest the Malabar-Mausika seat. They're more interested in that than they are interested in reporting on this serious issue that continues to be misrepresented in the public domain. So that when I say that we don't have journalists in this country, we have back analysts. That's what it is about. That's what they're calling me to ask me and sending me WhatsApp messages to ask me about that. Right? That's more important. And if I could get them a little bit more information about myself and so on and whatnot. And if this page, if I'm affiliated with the debunking page that they see on Facebook and all of these different things, and there's that link to and all of this. Yeah, that's what they're giving priority to. And meanwhile, you have this issue, this burning issue, that's not important. So I intend to send questions to all of them and ask, you all plan to look into this? Any of you going to call the central bank or call the Auditor General and inquire as to whether this meeting took place and what was the outcome? The fact that you only prompting on how to do your job speaks volumes about the media in Trinidad and Tobago. But I continue. Not that. So, let me get it here. Where is it? Right. Imbert said that the central bank was unable to accommodate the request. However, in that regard, the bank has advised me, given the historical relationship between the Auditor General and the bank and the critical role of the Auditor General in the conduct of national affairs, the governor remains open to meeting with and discussing any matter with the Auditor General. This meeting can form the basis for a precise and properly constituted engagement that, while not like an audit of the accounts of the central bank, which has already been completed, could be very informative regarding public sector financial transactions and processes. It is hoped that the Auditor General will follow the established procedures and meet with the governor of the central bank on this matter or delegate authority in writing. In writing by the law, section 10(2) of the Exchequer and Audit Act. Not to put some pleb, some low-level functionary to send an email to the central bank governor, rather than follow established process, because the central bank governor is not no flyby, no, you know. This is a senior man, one of the highest paid public officials in this country. And if it is that you want your staff to come to his premises, his domain, to inspect his computer systems, then you need to follow procedure and do it the right way, right? But she don't want to be probed. She doesn't want to have to answer questions. All of these things here, these claims made by the central bank, that they responded to her email and told her what was required, and up to now they didn't get it, as of the point of in time in which this was published, challenging her claims. She has to answer to that. Is this true? Because it has implications. Because this is a serious matter that needs to be resolved. The central bank, you put in an affidavit that they denied you access, but the central bank is telling a totally different story. So she has to answer in this probe, is what the central bank said true? That they responded to your email and told you they needed to get in writing the names of the persons who you were delegating authority to as per the law before they gave you opportunity, and that up to that point in time, there was no date proposed, no time proposed. So apparently the central bank governor is supposed to have what? A crystal ball? Or he's a mind reader? He's Professor X from the X-Men? He could put on Cerebro and read her mind? But again, the media are asking no questions about that. I continue. In the Sunday Express, right, so I was saying in writing to the Deputy Auditor General or another suitable staff member to act on her behalf. In the Sunday Express article, Ramdas is quoted as saying that her duty to audit was compromised given the central bank's denial. She further noted that the Finance Minister, Colin Membert, in his affidavit dated July 8, 2024, had indicated in a WhatsApp communication to Permanent Secretary Suzette Lee Chi concerning the understatement of revenues that the 700 million is not chicken feed. That said, this is why she was precisely concerned about the accuracy of the accounts, as she was facing a $2.5 billion error that had resulted in the Ministry of Finance attempting to amend the accounts and resubmit them outside of the statutory deadline, which statutory deadline was extended by an act of Parliament. This has given rise, Ramdas said that the central bank's denial of her access is unlawful. No, it was not unlawful. Your actions were unlawful because the law says you had to submit your request with the names in writing. And since your duties are governed by the Exchequer and Audit Act, the Auditor General of all people should have an in-depth understanding and familiarity with all of the clauses in that act. So it is her word against that of the central bank. And I am more inclined to lean on the side of the central bank, since we've seen the actions of the Auditor General within the last few months that is quite questionable, from her choice of counsel, right? Anand Ramlogan. What was the basis on which you chose Mr. Ramlogan? Is he your personal attorney? Was it appropriate for you to go down that road, given the close proximity of Mr. Ramlogan to the official opposition of Trinidad and Tobago? You couldn't find a more unbiased attorney that you went to Mr. Ramlogan, senior counsel, whose rates are probably exorbitant? All of these are questions that need to be asked by the investigating team. I continue. This has given rise to yet another legal issue upon which I require advice and guidance, as I am of the view that the denial of access by the central bank is not lawful in the context of this special audit, where the minister attributed the error that led to the amended accounts to the very ECCS online platform, she said in her affidavit. You see that last paragraph? Let me read it again for emphasis. This has given rise to yet another legal issue upon which I require advice and guidance. So every little thing she run into Anand for, and Anand bill only going up. Only going up. Every time she pick up the phone and call Anand, okay, well, I need to give you a legal opinion on this. All right, expect the invoice. Expect the invoice. Okay? I am of the view that the denial of access by the central bank is not lawful in the context of this special audit, where the minister attributed the error that led to the amended accounts to the very ECCS online platform, she said in her affidavit. So she accepted that the minister said the reason for this 2.6 billion was the electronic check clearing system in the central bank, double posting, that had to do with payments of VAT refunds and income tax returns that were posted twice. So if you posted once, the 2.6 billion correctly came out. And for some reason, it was posted a second time. So that is two sets of $2.6 billion that would have come out, resulting in You needed a reversal of one of the $2.6 billion postings to get the correct figure. Simple as that. It was supposed to be posted once, so we only saw one $2.6 billion deducted from the treasury. It was posted twice, so it happened 2 transactions of $2.6 billion would have been posted, and therefore that would have resulted in the shortfall. And all it takes for that to be sorted out, again, is for the Auditor General and her team to go down to the central bank and interrogate the system so that they could show, well, on this day, the transactions were put through, and this is what happened. It has since been corrected. The second posting was reversed, and now, look the documentation here. So if you don't want to take Colman Burt's word, you don't want to take Susan Leachy's word, you don't want to take the word of anybody in the Ministry of Finance because you figure they're biased and they are beholden to the minister for their work, and they don't want to be penalized or ostracized by the minister, well, all right, come here. The minister has no local standard in here. Come to the central bank and see for yourself. He says so, but you want to see for yourself, you want to stick your finger in the wound, well, okay, come, Ms. Ramdas, come and see. Has that happened? That should have happened 5 months ago. Did it happen? And if it has happened, what is the outcome? But it is in the best interest to keep that a secret because they realize the UNC ain't talking about that at all. If the UNC was so convinced that money was stolen, they would have been pressing the issue for the Auditor General to go down to the central bank and prove Mbut to be a damn liar. But they ain't talking that. Nobody asking that. If that meeting happened, we're talking everything else except that. Why isn't the general public? You see, because the media are not focusing on that. Many members of the general public aren't even aware that that meeting was supposed to take place. So they just run in on what they're seeing on Facebook and other social media platforms, much of which, to my mind, is a misrepresentation. And again, it is instructive to note that there were 5 law lords, 5 judges of the Privy Council who deliberated on that appeal or that case brought by the Auditor General. 5 of them. Only one of the 5, Lady Simla, who wrote the judgment, raised any questions or issues about the conduct of the Minister of Finance and suggested that the Minister of Finance, his conduct should be investigated from the perspective that the Auditor General made a claim that she was bullied and Mr. Mbut tried to use his office to force her, and he called on her private cell phone to try and manhandle her, however the case may be. That is what she's calling for an investigation for. I don't know if Lady Simla is a feminist, and she probably feel, well, you know, look, even in the Privy Council, we are outnumbered. You have more men than women. And these men figure that because they're in positions of power that they could do what they want, and it's structured to do what they want. And they figure because they're men that they have power. I don't know if that is how she thinks, and maybe she saw another situation like this. Because as I said, they were even underrepresented on this panel. There were 2 female jurists and 3 male jurists. So I don't know if that is her thinking, but it is instructive to know that of the 5 of them, only one, Lady Simla, was the only one who was of the view, based on what we saw and heard, who felt that Minister Mbut's conduct ought to be investigated. So she was outnumbered 4-1. But we don't talk about that, and we're not focusing on that. No, we're going with the minority. Yeah, the Privy Council. No, the Privy Council did not say that. One judge said that, not the Privy Council. So stop misrepresenting the truth and saying that the Privy Council said that the minister should be investigated. The Privy Council did not say that. A minority said that, one jurist. But they will run out there and say that. And that's all they're talking about. Mbut's supposed to be in jail, and they'll lock up Mbut. And Mbut not supposed to be Minister of Finance, and all kind of foolishness. Nonsense. This matter needs to be resolved. And you know, I will put some links on Mr. Mbut simply to say that given that he has a vested interest in this, and then again, maybe not, because perhaps his position in this matter has been so misrepresented, he probably decided, you know what, lest they accuse me of trying to get involved in this thing anymore, with me pressing to find out if this meeting took place between the Auditor General and the Central Bank, let me leave that alone, right? Because then they will say that I call the Central Bank and I tell them do whatever, so let me take myself out of it and allow due process to take its course. But somebody needs to ask the question. Or is it that an ordinary citizen needs to file a Freedom of Information request on both the Central Bank and the Auditor General to inquire as to whether or not this meeting took place and to ask them to provide details of what the outcome was, what were the findings of that meeting? It was possible. Any one of you all could do it. You just go online, you download the Freedom of Information request form, fill it out, and you submit it to both authorities and have them, they have 30 days by law to respond. And if they can't answer in 30 days, well, then they have to write you to tell you, well, we're still gathering the information and so on. So we're requesting another 15 days or another 30 days, and it can keep going on like that until. But I see absolutely no reason why that should happen, because it's simple. Yes, the meeting took place. Yes, the Auditor General was satisfied with the explanation given. No, she wasn't satisfied. End of text. So there's no reason that it should take more than 30 days to get an answer, since the media doesn't want to do it. But they could find my number to message me and call me to ask me rubbish. But that's more important than treating with a situation like this, which is of significant public importance. I just say it. So when they come up with the nonsense, right? Come on, man, media, do better than that, educate the public. The people who are not going to go in depth to go and pull up exchequer and audit, act and all them kind of thing, and who are going to look for the judgment to read. Seriously? Come on. That's all it works. That's what you are getting paid for. Do that now. But instead, here we are in an election year with such a big issue still hanging over the government's head. And the claim of billions missing. And I keep telling you all, if this government wanted to thief, the UNC People's Partnership handed them the opportunities on a platinum platter. If they wanted to thief, they could have stolen hundreds of millions with respect to the QREP interchange. The UNC said the budget was $503 million. They did it for $221. So they could have hired the same contractor that they paid to do it, and the contractor will say, well, yes, it really is $503 million. Do it for the 221, which he did it for, and then the rest, 200 and something, almost 300 million, the cabinet could have split it up and they're good for life. They could have thief there, and the UNC couldn't argue the point because you said it would cost 503. So if we come and do it for 500, we're going to come and say, well, no, that's not the real cost. So where you got it from? Napa, that they shut down for 2 years and told us all of the defects, that it required at least $100 million to fix the defects. This administration came in, thank God, in 2015, and they did it for $20 million. 5 times less than what the UNC's original estimate was. So they could have done it for the 20 million, say it costs 100 million, and thief 80 and share it up among the 23 of them. President's House, the UNC told us it would cost 169 million. This government did it for 89. They could have done it for the 89, say it cost 169, which was the UNC's budget, and thief 80 million. The Red House project, the UNC said 950 million would be the cost. This government did it for 441. So that is 500 million and 509 million they could have thief and say that it cost 950 million. They could have done that. The Brian Lara Stadium to complete, that they left untouched for 5 years, 3 months, and 14 days. And in the mere last days of their administration, all of a sudden they want to fix it. They want to come and fix it and finish it. Told us it would cost $150 million to fix. This government did it for 91. So that's 60 million they could have thief. All they had to do was to look at all these UNC projects and say it cost the same budget that the UNC, but do it for less than the actual cost and thief all that money. They didn't do that. But Mr. Embert wake up one morning and decide, well, I'm going to thief 3.3 billion. That making sense to them. And sometimes I think these citizens of Trinidad and Tobago just do one truth, So they're all over the place bumping their gum and saying all kind of thing. But I can't blame them because they're going based on what is being fed to them. Like this individual up in Sangre Grande, the walkabout that was done last week with Roger Monroe, where he was supported by Prime Minister incoming Stuart Young and the Minister of Youth Development and National Service, General Secretary of the party, Foster Cummings. And we had this entity who sought to accost Mr. Monroe, asking him what all they have in place for the youths in Eastern Quarry or something so. When it is, subsequently we learned that she was really a UNC operative, because pictures have surfaced of her in company of Prasad Bisesa and Wayne Sturge. Wayne Search, who is the UNC's candidate for that area. And if you go on this individual's TikTok page, you will see numerous TikTok videos of her challenging what the government has in place for the youth. And oh, they could have get the youth a little 20 jobs, they could have hired 20 of them and whatnot. Yeah, the government about that. The government is about giving them opportunities, not giving them fish, teaching them to fish. And if you were truly interested in finding out what the government has in place for the youth, you would have gone to find out. And it's not that difficult. It is not that difficult. The same platform that you're using to spread your propaganda, you could get the information on that same platform if you don't want to go to the ministry's website to find out. If you were genuinely interested, why you don't go down to the Ministry of Youth Development and National Service and get some application forms and take it back to the youth of Eastern Quarry and talk to them, since you seem to have some level of influence, and tell them, fill out this form. Make inquiries as to what is the process. If you really care about the youth in the area, instead of wanting to offer them land for the landless. According to your leader, we give you a piece of land, you don't have land, we'll give you a piece of land to build a 2x4. And then you could save your money, and in about 10 years' time, you could build a 10x10. And we will give you a certificate of comfort, which is basically government permission to squat. That's what it is. It does not give you legal title. You can't take it to the bank. It has no value. But meanwhile, the PNM is offering programs where we are giving you training in agriculture for 2 years in UE. So you have an official document when you're done. We're paying you a stipend for that 2 years to go and learn. And when you finish, we're giving you 2 acres of land. You're getting $20,000 to start your business. You have your farmer's badge. You have legal title to your land, so you could go to the ADB and get further funding if it is that you need to. And you have a deed of lease that you could take to the bank, which has more value than the certificate of comfort. So while one party is offering you certificate of comfort, the other party is offering you deed of lease. Which one is more valuable? But if she was really interested in what the government has to offer to the youth, not just of Eastern Quarry and Sangre Grande, but throughout the 41 constituencies, not the 22 that they hold, all 41, all are welcomed. It's very easy for her to get the information. But beware, they're going to continue to send out the minions like that. Pay them a little kakada, small money, and they're more than happy to take it and cause ruckus. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see more PNM candidates finding themselves in that situation. But I am well prepared for them when I start my campaigning, which will be very soon. Just have 1 or 2 things to put in place, and then we will begin in earnest, right? So I'm waiting for them. I think that you all could come and try to railroad me like that. I had the information, okay? So prepare yourself when you come in to ask me. As I said, my position is and has always been, prescription without diagnosis is malpractice. Don't ask me what I come in to do for you. You tell me what you need done. Because representative politics is not a one-size-fits-all. What could work in Malabar, Mausika, may not work in Dabadi-Omera. What might work in Arima may not work in Lupino Bonnet West. Okay? So please, as someone who has experienced what it is to campaign, to run an election campaign, I'm well aware of what people come with. So save me that trouble now. Okay? If you know that there are things in the area that need to be done that are pressing for you, because it may be pressing for you and not pressing for others, right? So you let me know. I am not a magician. I can't know. Yes, I live in the constituency, but I don't know everything that needs to be done in the constituency. I can speak for my area and where I live, my immediate area. But the constituency is fairly large, and there are lots of things. Fortunately, I think Malabar Mausika is one of the more, what I consider to be low-hanging fruit constituencies, because we have a lot of housing developments in Malabar that they don't have really issues per se. But then again, on the surface, it may so appear, but there are certain things that I have already identified that need to be done, and I intend to treat with as soon as possible. And whatever it is that I could do even before the election, I would seek so to do, because for now, the constituency is without representation following the passing of our former MP, Lisa Morris-Julian. Right? So we don't have her there to make representation. And I would say to persons, I have just been selected as I'm the prospective candidate for the UNC, not the UNC, sorry, the PNM. I have no power. I can't sign nothing. I can't do anything now, right? I can't. So don't come and ask me if I could do it. What I can do, if I could make representation to certain ministers and ask them based on their ministry to intervene. But I have no power. I can't get nobody no CPEP contract. I can't do any of those things. So please do not come and ask me. Persons have gotten my number and sending me a WhatsApp message telling me about this, that. I have no access. I can't give you no food card. I can't give you anything. I am just a prospective candidate. Okay? My job between now and the election is to campaign, walk around the constituency, meet the people, hear what their issues are, take note of it, and start to formulate plan with my campaign team as to how we go forward. That's it, the extent of what I could do. Until nomination day, I'm just prospective, and the party still has the how I should put it, boy. They were at all the facility to remove me if they so wish. We saw that in 2020. Ansel Antoine was selected as the prospective nominee, and he said one wrong thing with respect to Donald Trump and his whole country. It was recorded. It got to the eyes and ears of the political directorate, and Mr. Antoine was gone, replaced by Lisa Morris-Julian. All right? So I have to be very careful in the things that I say, even on this platform here. Okay? So, someone says the Auditor General is feeling shame to say that the money is not missing. Exactly, that is what it is. And they will come with all other kinds of distractions and foolishness, right? So when they're saying this thing, now I hear in the UNC, and so Andy Roberts saying the situation with the Commissioner of Police, that is just a distraction from the bigger issue about Coleman Imbert and the missing money and so on. Rubbish. There is no money missing, and Mr. Imbert, as far as I'm concerned, has nothing to answer to. But if the courts are of the view that he should answer to the claims by the Auditor General that he was a bully, and she's saying that he's bad, and that this tribunal or this team that has been put together to probe that because it was appointed by the minister and the cabinet, that there's an element of bias in this, and she feels that she would not be given a fair shake. But the other side of that, which we need to take note of, is that even if it is the courts decide, okay, we are going to accede to the request of the Auditor General and she is to be removed as a subject of the probe, it doesn't change the fact that once the probe goes on and she's not a subject, meaning that they can't ask her any questions, her name will still come up. So if it is the Ministry of Finance staff say, well, we tried to reach out to the Auditor General and she wasn't taking calls and she wasn't responding, you know what will happen then when the final report is compiled? And if it is their negative findings against her based on interviews that would have been done with the ministry staff, Board of Inland Revenue staff, and so on, the report will go nowhere. Because just like with the live sport audit report, where Mr. Creed and others would have said, well, they weren't given an opportunity to respond to the findings, the negative findings against them. And just as in the case of the inquiry by Stanley John into the issuance of firearm users licenses under Gary Griffith's tenure, where the final report is unable to be laid because Mr. Griffith has filed an injunction claiming he was not given an opportunity to respond to the adverse findings, is the same thing will happen. She's saying, take me out of the probe, don't ask me no question. But when it is the probe is finished, if there's anything in there with my name mentioned and people say I did this and that, I am going to injunct that report because I wasn't given an opportunity to respond. But you were given an opportunity to be a part of the probe, and you took it to the court to say, take you out of it. But then you will come after now. If it is you are excused from the probe, they can't ask you no question. But then you will come to claim that you didn't get an opportunity to respond. How are they supposed to do that when it is that you don't want to be included? So they're supposed to go through now, do the report, and then send you a copy so that you could read through it. And if there's anything in there that is negative to you, then you could come and say, well, you want to injunct because this ain't true and that ain't true. But if you were part of the probe, you could give your side and say, this isn't true, that isn't true. And then the team could make a final determination and create a full report. If you have nothing to hide and no cocoa in the sun, what is the issue that you willing to take it so far and cost the state millions of dollars just because you don't want to be a part of the probe? You don't want to have to answer any questions. To me, those are the actions of somebody who might have some, a little cocoa in the sun, as they say, right? But a word to the wise is sufficient. Mr. Yates, can you call me on WhatsApp? Because my phone on roaming. Alright, just now, huh? Yeah, I'm gonna put this thing on here. Give me 1 sec here, folks. Alright. Let me just take this here quickly. Hello, good morning.
Good afternoon, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, just a couple of points I want to make. One, the Ras Maraj is dishonest in the extreme. I know of very few people who are as dishonest and as disingenuous as this man. You're right. And I've always told people that once UNC says or does something that attracts public criticism in the extreme, Ras Maraj runs away from that. He take a week off, try to talk about Russia and Putin and China and Ukraine and all this kind of rubbish. Always does that because he knows about how inappropriate Bissetter's statement about Biden from a diplomatic standpoint has been. And it reverberates throughout Trinidad and Tobago. And he knows that. And he knows it because he was a former Minister of Foreign Affairs in 2 administrations. So he would know about political propriety and being indiscreet and discreet in your remarks about foreign matters. And he avoids the criticisms of Biden from his archangel, Kamla Prasad Bissetter. He knows it very well. And what makes it even more nasty is that for the last 3 years at least, this wretch, Ras Maraj, has been attacking Donald Trump. He has been attacking Trump as a very dangerous man for the world. He has even written in his articles that via Trump we could have World War III. So he knows. So look at the hypocrisy in this man. He cannot even trust what Bissetter has said. Because what she says flies in the face of what he has been saying about Trump for the last 2 years in his articles. So that underscores how dangerous. He is as dangerous as Bissetter, as a so-called columnist. That is what he does. That is the thing about Ras Maraj. And look at it. Look at the pathetic pattern of repetition for the last month in all of his 3 articles, except the one last week Sunday. But for this Sunday and at least 2 Sundays before that, 10 blood-soaked years. What you can't find other words to use. You're saying the same damn thing over and over and over again, Ras Maraj. You are an apology for journalists. I'm telling Darian Chopin this about I deal in muscular prose. Muscular prose is littered with repetition. But you are a damn joker as far as I'm concerned. But then, just leave this wretch alone. As you suggested earlier, why of all the legal offices and firms that you could be attracted to is Freedom House? You will seek the advice and the direction and the representation of a legal firm led by an Attorney General that was the last Attorney General in a UNC administration until he was removed ignominiously How you reach there? How you didn't go by daily? How you didn't go by men's? How you didn't go? How is it? There are reputable firms all over the place. Why have you reached to Ramlo? Why you reached the Freedom House? Until you could explain that to me, I'm talking for me, from my perspective, I will have to say that you are being political. You gone to a UNC law firm? Excuse me. I am not impressed at all. I'm not impressed at all. You see anything to do with that has to do with neutrality here? Ms. Ramdas, excuse me. Try somebody else. Try somebody else. It is very obvious why you have gone to that particular law firm to plead your case. And then this dotishness about your situation, where the media would have the effrontery to call you and ask your links to ILP. Warner was with UN. He left and he formed the ILP. He left the UNC. He formed the ILP. That's full up. That's gone up in smoke. He gone back to the UNC now, begging our bread. He gone back to the UNC, looking for candidacy in one of those centers in Malaysia. That's where he was before. He got back there. Both Tiwari was a COP, and it was pictured in the papers where you saw him putting on a UNC jersey over the COP jersey. So he suddenly woke up one morning and decided, well, look, my political future hinges around my becoming a UNC, to become a UNC minister in a UNC administration. He was COP before he went to Kamla, before he joined UNC. The very chatterbox Anna Roberts, disreputable as he is, he was COP. Anna Roberts was a COP, and suddenly, in the dead of night, like Section 34, he suddenly become a UNC. So the media should do a little background check, do their homework before they come to you talking dotishness about you and ILP. Right? Dotishness about you and ILP. And finally, Mr. Roman, I shared this with one or two people. You know the pattern of the UNC. You know their canal counts. You know how nasty they operate. And bet your life, you could bet your last dollar, your turn is coming, Your turn is coming. With the scandal mongering and the nasty campaign. Be on your guard, and they will get Africans like you. They will get nasty mouth robbers and naked to do a body job on you. I know you are a strong person, but just be on your guard, because they are preparing, because that is a seat they need to win the general election. So, you know, just be cautious. Be on your guard and be vigilant.
Yes.
Because it is coming, right? It is coming. So I just wanted to say these few things and take my leave. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So let me try to keep my cool. You all know sometimes there's realm up too much, and I have a very low tolerance level for foolishness. Right? So I'm seeing some of the new trolls. Some of them would be visiting the page for the first time since Urvashi decided to do her research and publish, you know. And I want to thank Urvashi for that. You know why? Because I've noticed, let's just say I've noticed my advertising earnings on YouTube going up, because more people are visiting the page and looking at previous videos. So you all please continue. You're doing me a big favor. Let me address, I see somebody mentioned something here about we importing fuel from Jamaica. I saw there's a clip, a video going around talking about that, about us Trinidad importing marine fuel from Petrojam, which is Jamaica's refinery. I'm not going to go into that today. Needless to say that if the refinery was still open, you know what we would need to do to produce the same marine fuel that we imported from Jamaica? We would have needed to purchase hundreds of thousands of barrels of oil, which we don't have in Trinidad because of our mature fields, as we were doing at the point of Petrotrin's closure. importing 100,000 barrels plus of oil per day to be able to make that same fuel. So to the person, I think is some, let's see if I see it here, by what's his name? Some Chris somebody. They're just coming out of the woodworks who's saying that, talking about that. Would it have cost more to purchase the 100,000 barrels of oil per day to refine, to make that marine fuel, or does it cost less to simply buy the fuel and let Jamaica incur all of the cost involved in refining it? Which one makes more sense, Chris? Because all you're bright. All you're real bright, but I said I will deal with that on another day. Probably Thursday we will get more in-depth to that. Because sometimes it makes more sense to buy it than to make it. Because when you have to buy the ingredients to make it, what is going to cost the ingredients as opposed to just going and buy the finished product from somebody else, it makes more economic sense. But all you don't understand that. You all don't understand that. No, because when you look at the UNC's National Economic Transformation Plan, which is part of their manifesto, you will see inside there, Chris, when all you want to come here and criticize the government, you will see inside there several pages where the UNC talks about put them back in office, and they will look at all state enterprises that they consider to be a drain on the treasury, and they will either shut it down or invite the private sector to come and take over these state-owned companies, and the government will benefit from dividends and taxes. The same people who are today opposed to any type of privatization or the sale of any state enterprise, in their manifesto, their National Economic Transformation Plan that your leader, Chris, keeps telling people, all it's on the internet, go and take it and read it. It is lucidly clear in black and white, and in some cases red, that they intend to look at all state entities and all state enterprises that they consider to be a drain on the treasury, their words. And these entities will either be shut down, sold, or they will invite the private sector to come in and manage it and pay the state dividends and taxes. And you know, one of the first things the private sector loves to do is to talk about restructure. And what usually attends restructure? Loss of jobs. Then there is another one here. You know what amazed me? They like to come on here and tell me that, oh, I talk in propaganda and all kind of thing. What's the propaganda? Tell me anything that I said here today that is propaganda. And you see, that is why when I speak, it is supported with articles and evidence. You see, I am not Anil Roberts. I am not Kamla Pasabi. I am not Rudal Munilal, who just like to come on a platform and talk a set of nonsense and cannot direct you to where you will get the information. So I read from articles and I tell you where I get my information from. And if I'm not sure about something, I will not speak about it. Okay? So when you want to come here and tell me about that I am spreading propaganda, what's the propaganda? What's the propaganda? It's easy for them to come and say, you know why you are here instead of listening to the UNC's Waste of Time Sunday morning press conference? Is because truth is addictive. And you all keep coming back Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday to listen to a man who you say talking propaganda and spreading lies, but you're coming back to listen to the propaganda and the lies 3 days a week. That don't make no sense. And then again, it does, because truth is addictive. You all can't help all yourself. You all love hearing it, and you all know it is the truth. But you know what the problem is? You're fighting it up. Because you have no answer. I saw, anyway, let me see if I get it said. So, I don't know who this is, but give me 1 second here. Hold on 1 sec. Hold on, let me just switch this device. So, didn't ring on my other phone, so I'm guessing it's someone calling to make a contribution. Hello, good afternoon.
My friend from Paramount, my
Sir,
family,
greetings.
my everything. How are you doing, sir?
I am very good, sir.
Dominic, you are in my prayers every living day. And you said something a couple days ago, and I don't know if you realize you said it, but you said it. You want me to remind you?
Yes, sir, please do.
You said, let them dig. I have no skeletons in my closet.
That's
none,
right.
Absolutely none.
That's right.
You remember you said that? So let whoever want to dig, Dominic, let us not study these people and them. Let's not study them. We have a job for us to do. Now, when I say we, I mean all of us, Dominic.
Yes.
Forget all the naysayers and all the detractors, because Dominic, they'll come from all different sides, you know.
Yes.
They'll come from all different sides, but we have to be strong. And I tell you, as you put on your shoes, let us know, and we will be there with you, supporting you 110%.
Nice.
You have no skeletons in your closet. Have a good day, my brother.
Thank you, sir.
God bless you, and we'll always love you, all right?
Thank you.
Okay.
So I see here, Chris Razmin is saying, no. So there is Dave Arjun who says, this cacamouth only spreading misinformation. Dominic, you're real dance by. First of all, my name is spelled D-O-M-I-N-I-C. I'd appreciate it if you could at least spell it correctly. It was in the newspapers. Unless you don't read newspapers or you're dyslexic. It's spelled D-O-M-I-N-I-C. All right? So just a word to the wise. Spreading misinformation. But you can't tell me what the misinformation is. Listen, if you're bright and I spread misinformation, but come here and tell us what the truth is. Please, if you have the correct information, because I just read for you, right, from an article that was published in the newspaper. And I will read this portion again for your benefit, in case you just reached, or in case you went to your fridge to get a red shandy and you didn't hear me. I'll repeat it. This is Mr. Imbert speaking here, right, in a press release that he put out. He said what is particularly disturbing about the Auditor General's approach to this matter is the fact that at the exit meeting held on July 22nd, 2024, to complete the process of meetings on the special report, the audit team from the Auditor General's department, which included some of the most senior auditors in the department, openly expressed its satisfaction to the staff of the Ministry of Finance that the adjustment of the TT 2.6 billion was appropriately accounted for. Did you miss that, Dave? Did you miss that part? You didn't hear when I said that? So since I spread misinformation, let me ask you, and for Chris, who is saying where the billions going and still unaccounted for, did you hear that, Chris? Because the senior auditors who were sent to the ministry to do the audit to determine the veracity of where that money went, they were satisfied, Chris and Dave, that there is no missing 2.6 billion. Okay? But I would ask you, that meeting, the minister said the reason what caused the 2.6 billion shortfall was because of an issue with the electronic check cash or clearing system in the central bank. The Auditor General indicated in her affidavit that she wrote to the central bank requesting permission to come to the bank to test that claim. Show me how it happened. Show me what took place. How did this electronic check clearing system result in the 2.6 billion? And she said she was originally denied access. She didn't go into details, but the minister provided us with those details as to how that happened. All right? Chris and Dave? So my question is, since she so wanted this meeting so bad, and she said that the central bank's denial of her request to come and check the system was unlawful, she said that. Did that meeting take place? Is it that you all are afraid for that meeting to take place? Because when that meeting does take place and she checks and they show her, well, okay, this is what happened. There were $2.6 billion in worth of VAT refunds and income tax refunds. And in processing it, because the normal process is when the checks come in, we would have gone with the actual hard copy checks. But instead, what they do now is they scan it and they send a file and whatnot, as the case may be. And what was presented by the ministry is that this transaction took place twice. So you go to the grocery to purchase stuff, and the cashier check everything, and the cashier tell you your bill is $1,000. And you swipe your card, right, for the $1,000, and some error message come up. But it went through, the transaction went through. But something come up, and the cashier tell you, swipe again. It didn't go through. And you swipe again, a second time. So only $1,000 was supposed to come out of your account, as far as you know. And then you go home and whatnot, and you decide, let me stop by the ATM to take out some money, yeah? I need some cash. And you chuck your card in the machine. And when the receipt come out, you realize, but wait, that ain't right. That short, I supposed to have $1,000 more there. Don't tell me that transaction went through twice. So when my balance supposed to be 11,000, it's showing 10. You understand, Chris? You understand, Dave? So what you need to do is to go back to the grocery and let them know both transactions went through. The one you told me didn't go through, it went through. So you all need to do a reversal and put my money back in my account. That's the simplest way I could explain it to you. So if you put through 2.6 billion twice, obviously one needs to be reversed. Otherwise, your money's going to be showing short, 2.6 billion. You understand? I can't explain any other way for you. Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Dominic.
Good afternoon, sir.
Yeah, Dominic, congratulations. We're really proud of you.
Thank you.
Your mom and your sister will be proud.
Indeed.
Sorry they're not here to be there when they're swearing in. Dominic, but it's simple, you know. The $3.5 billion that UNC and the supporters, but not really UNC, and you're going to find like Kamala and them saying that. But they're pushing that for their stupid supporters to them to regurgitate that nonsense. I just always answer them. I say, okay, but $3.5 billion. So why then they go the Auditor General will now become the main witness anything there, because she will now have to go and testify on home but she's still $3.5 billion. And before Input can even go to court, she had to go through the technocrats at the Ministry of Finance and the Central Bank Governor.
Yes.
Because they will be providing the information and the court will have to verify. And before anybody knows the answer question, they will be proving that there's no $3.5 billion missing.
Yes.
And now she went to court, and I keep telling them that she went to court to stop the investigation, just as all Gary Griffith did. Well, if she knows that the thing that the UNC would use that, because we have 7 years now. Simple, no, that's a simple witness statement. There's been a witness statement because you only called me this time one thing after the trial was going to court with the contractors. The court found it necessary to ask him to put in a witness statement, because every time they talk about money, and they're talking about the money I'm talking about, there's no petty money, millions. And then when the court realizing that this thing cost billions. And this one saying that, and the minister was saying, and who thing, and the permanent secretary saying we ain't seeing the checks and balances for that. They say, okay, the only person can clear this, of course, is the minister. All right, not that minister can't go and do that. But that's what you think. All you have to ask is, well, okay, we're going to take $3.5 billion. Well, now the Auditor General is now the main listening matter, and she has to go and testify in court where that money going, where she running from. Because she realized that the problem is that they'll have to move on, no other choice. And now the government, another thing that the government will remove her like that, to say that if they were saying thing, it has to go through the president.
Yes.
And when the president will have to act on the information before the office of the president. Because that is a serious job. Remember, nobody votes for Auditor General. Auditor General is appointed, and that Auditor General can't sit down in the office and believe that the office is their own, you know. That there's no checks and balances to order the auditor behavior. You know, there must be checks and balances because she's also involved in billions of dollars that the country thing, and she's the one who will ensure that all T's across, all I's are done, and all taxes are counted. So that the Auditor General, the Auditor General will come and think to say who took money and who don't take money, provide the facts and pass it out to the necessary people on the investigation. What's that? Then the opposition, then the Auditor General did that. And then the Auditor General, first time ever, the Auditor General making him kind of ludicrous statements in the public domain. And there is where she has to answer the question. And basically, what the Lord was saying, that particular Lord was saying, is that she noticed that, and you think that the minister and would have said this or that, however, because that was other 35 other laws would have tended to that point. But she was now saying that since the Auditor General put in a defense that she has been attacked and one thing because remember they don't know the fact because they don't have the report before them. They don't go through a report and say whatever that's why, but they're dealing with the actual issue of she is saying that the government don't like she and want to get rid of she. Basically, that is it. So only say okay. Since the Auditor General is accounting that the minister do this and the minister fortune try to bully her. Guys, where that ruling come out from? But that does not exonerate the thing and that by thing you said. They try to fool people that don't know justice. But I just want to tell them too. They just pick up two people just so, but they don't do justice. They do one thing to do. They will skip and tell me about Jamaica. I have been to Jamaica. Yes, no, I remember when, like going down and watching that refinery. One of the things I was looking at that refinery was the size of it. And I was looking at the volumes it was putting out and the cost of labor and those things. And I was saying, if we had a refinery like that, we'd be more efficient and have better gas and those things. But I would tell these people who boasting and talking about that thing, it takes way more labor to run that thing. And the output from that is even more efficient than what we have.
Yes.
Right? And if these UNC people putting up that, they're telling you, why don't they run the Indian businessman? Why they come up with service as an attack the man personally? And then when the man turn and bust out and gone. They don't see us about that. Tell us about that. I mean, you look at the Jamaica's economy through the eyes of the IMF, Moody's, and the United Nations, and the Standard 11, and those things, and they are compared to Trinidad and Tobago. Those are the latest ratings that the IMF and them put up. I mean, they're talking a certain nonsense. Jamaica is struggling, and they're now starting to get above board. That where they're now starting to like the sea land. Without any wilderness for the longest while. So they're now looking to get IMF off the back. And when you finally get IMF off the back, it is Belarus, they have to start to build on that, otherwise going right back in the IMF program. And I want them people to put that up to also know that. Remember what it was when Kamala Pasapi says the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago. And I'm not too far, that's just what it was. And the chair of CARICOM went and make a big statement and said that Trinidad and Tobago is not an Indian. What she caused? She caused the people of Jamaica to be outraged and decide to, what I was doing? Boycotting the goods that manufacture in Trinidad and Tobago. So I want them to also know that when you go to Jamaica, the most of businesses that Trinidad and Tobago own that is in Jamaica, all over the world. So now that CARICOM does Jamaica continue on again, we consider one we try to trade between one another and things, so we don't really interfere with that nonsense. So Jamaica has the same rights to come to Trinidad and open their businesses once they've already proceeded to CARICOM and the law of Trinidad and Tobago, because some of the laws in Trinidad and Tobago are different to the ones in Jamaica, and they will know how to adjust themselves. But I will also let them know that Patrick Manning was the man who, when the Jamaican Prime Minister asked him to get involved in Air Jamaica, when they was losing it over a bankruptcy, and they were scared of having somebody outside of the Caribbean, like probably the Americas or Europe, was taking over. You know, he went and asked Patrick Manning to take over the operations of Air Jamaica. And you know what that was all about? Just like how we Patrick Manning went to save Clico, basically it's about that. It's about seeking the interest of the Caribbean, you know. Because we trade as a one body, and that's why we need Caribbean unity. But these people selected using Jamaica and put thing and click and that and make their story because they know to operate the AI system. I am a tell you I'm a dozen that. But using that to talk to me and you, know. Because as far as they're concerned, they don't like anybody other Caribbean island outside Suriname and Ghana. The cabal inside IUNC don't like other Caribbean countries, and that's why Kamala is more trying to get to do business with Suriname and thing than to extend business. further south of the Caribbean. And the people in the Caribbean saw it. That is why when we go to this country, when then people come and just tell us that we'll be very racial down there. They say we racial, I know what they're talking about. Just get plenty so that just call it something. And if you tell all this, so, you know, and basically around and talking, them gonna talk and they tell you they don't want that. And as far as themselves Jamaica, any Indian, Portuguese, whoever you is, once you're born in Jamaica and you're living there, you consider yourself as a Jamaican first. That's why you see you can't talk Jamaican for the Jamaican at all, no part of the world. They will get on with you. But in Trinidad and Tobago, we have some people who use these things to bring down their own country. They will lie, they'll cheat, they'll do anything. There's something there because they will say and play with honorably. If you look at some of them posts with about that nonsense with these things that they're talking about, the refinery, read the literally how much, but read the little one or two people for a post. It's about a black man, the black man in PNM, and all kind of don't see black African people running this country and look at the other countries. And because you see, when you look at that, that's where you see it appeal to them with that, because other black people in other countries is talking about their economy going up and the economy going down. But them trying to say because they're saying that because a black man in Trinidad running the country going down, because they keep telling you the country thing and be suffering and be this and be that and that. But when you look around, you see different. And when you look at the reports, you're hearing different. But thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Right, let me just respond to Chris, who says that I'm trying to spin the Privy Council judgment on Emsbert Way and stupid. Yeah, Chris, I feel I'll had a question not to know. So let me read it for you again. Because like you didn't get it the first time that I read it, right? So when you say you're not stupid, I'm like, you have me questioning that statement. I am reading here from the judgment, the actual judgment, right? Which you probably haven't seen. Introduction. Paragraph 1. I had to read all 60 paragraphs. You ain't doing that. You mightn't even make it through half of paragraph 1. The proceedings that have given rise to this appeal concern an application for judicial review by the Auditor General of Trinidad and Tobago. I will take my time. The respondent to this appeal against the Minister of Finance and the Cabinet referred together as the appellants. The judicial review challenges the Minister's recommendation accepted by the Cabinet to appoint an investigation team whose members and terms of reference were determined by him, that is, the Minister of Finance. The investigation team is to report on the conduct of the Auditor General in response to an understatement by the Ministry of Finance, the MOF, of revenue of 2.6 billion in the public accounts for financial year 2023 as described below. The respondent contends, and the respondent is the Auditor General, that the minister's decisions are tainted by bias and breach the constitutional protections for the Auditor General in sections 116 and 136 of the Constitution. There is no dispute, paragraph 2, that the magnitude of the understatement of revenue by the Ministry of Finance and the circumstances that led to it raise serious matters of public concern warranting a full investigation. So the Privy Council is saying there should be an investigation, right? The Auditor General is contending how that team is appointed, that it shouldn't be done by the minister because the minister will pick people who he knows and people who he could influence to write a report that is adverse to her. And she is concerned that even though this report or this investigation is not part of Section 136, 137 of the Constitution as it pertains to a tribunal to remove her from office, that if the government decides that they want to go that way, they could use the findings of this report, which she says was suggesting would be tainted because the investigative team were appointed by Mr. Imbert and they are in fact beholden to him. That is what she is saying, that this report could eventually be used by the government to trigger a tribunal to remove her from office. Okay? And she is challenging this investigation, this probe, to avoid that from happening. So let me continue to read for you. And I'm trying to break it down as easy, as simple as I can. The full terms of reference set by the minister are recorded in paragraph 17, and I'll read it for you just now. The first three of these terms of reference are properly directed to the circumstances surrounding the understatement and are not challenged by the respondent. So the first three issues that the team has been asked to investigate, the Auditor General had no problem with that. Indeed, the board understands that an investigation has proceeded in relation to those terms of reference, and there is no challenge to the investigation team members or their conduct. The respondent's challenge is limited. Who is the respondent? The Auditor General. She seeks to quash as unlawful only those parts of the appellant's decision, that is the Minister of Finance, that are concerned with the design and implementation of an investigation into her role and conduct as Auditor General in connection with the understatement. You want me to read it for you again? Let me oblige you. The respondent's challenge is limited. She seeks to quash as unlawful only those parts of the appellant's decisions that are concerned with the design and implementation of an investigation into her role and conduct as Auditor General in connection with the understatement. You understand? So she is saying, well, you can have all your probe, have your investigation. But you see, when it comes to the part where you all include me as a subject of this probe, I am challenging it in the court and I am saying it is unlawful and you do not have the right, based on the Constitution, to include me and my office in any probe. So I'm asking the court to remove me as a subject, and Ole could continue Ole probe and question and probe everybody else. You could go and probe everybody who working in the Ministry of Finance, everybody who is working in the Board of Inland Revenue. You could go and probe who you want. Just leave me out of your bacchanal. That is what that matter was for. Right? And so the Privy Council said in the judgment, listen, we are of the view that there were certain claims raised. The Auditor General is claiming bias. She is claiming that the decision by the Minister of Finance was unlawful. She is claiming that Mr. Imbut has his ulterior motives and so on. And therefore, the laws are saying that is a case to be answered. But this is not the forum for that. We can't answer that. And we were not asked to answer that. So we are giving permission to the Auditor General to now go back to the local court and challenge this probe, challenge this investigation, and have the local court declare that that Mr. Imbut's constitution of this probe team was unlawful to include the Auditor General. And as I said, the court can either squash the whole probe or say the probe can proceed, but without the Auditor General as a subject of the probe. That is all she wants. And now the Privy Council has given her the permission to come back to the local court. She was seeking judicial review of that issue. They now said, go back to the local court. You have leave. The local courts didn't give you the leave before to appear before them to answer or to hear your case. The Privy Council has now said, we give you permission. The local court has no choice but to allow you to appear before them, plead your case, asking them to remove you as a subject of the probe or to cancel the probe. That is what it is. So I am not misrepresenting anything. But always, because you all don't take the time to read. You wouldn't take the time to read. As I said, I had to take time and sit down and read all 60 paragraphs of this. You ain't doing that. You're not even reading one, Chris. If you would take the time to do that, then you would have come to the same understanding as I have. It has nothing, what the Privy Council thing had nothing to do with the 3 billion. It had nothing to do with Mr. Imbut, thief no money. It had nothing to do with that. The Auditor General asked the Privy Council to grant her permission, since the local courts would not give her permission, to appear before them, to plead her case, to say that Imbut is being biased in appointing this team to come and investigate her involvement in the understatement. She feels she did nothing wrong. She followed her duties to the letter, and therefore there's no reason why she should be included. Simple as that. She's now free. Mr. Ram Logan is now free to file a case before the local courts, because the Privy Council say, all you have to hear the case. You have to hear the case. So it will go back to the local court now, and the Privy Council is saying there should be a full trial. So the Auditor General is alleging bias. Allow Mr. Imbert the opportunity to come and argue against and say there is no bias. Okay? And that could only take place in a full trial in the court of law. That is all it is. But as I read for you there is no money missing. Why aren't you, Chris, asking the Auditor General, did she go to Central Bank? Did she go and verify? Mr. Imbert said the 2.6 billion understatement is as a result of the electronic check clearing system. So all you have to do, if you want to prove him a liar, go to the Central Bank, see for yourself. The transaction took place there. According to Imbert, it took place there. So you go there to see if he's telling the truth. And if you go there and he is lying and that didn't happen, it would be borne out. And then I think the Auditor General would be more than happy to ensure that that information comes out into the public domain, that Mr. Imbert said it was the electronic check clearing system that caused the 2.6 billion error. But myself and my staff, we went to the Central Bank, we checked the system, and the Central Bank was not able to show us that any such error took place there, and therefore Mr. Imbert is lying. How come we ain't hear that? 5 months now. All of a sudden, she gone quiet. She put in an affidavit that the Central Bank denied her permission to come and check the system. But the Central Bank said, come, but just abide by the law, the Exchequer and Audit Act that stipulates how you are to make that request in writing. Indicate the names in writing of the people you're sending. And once you follow the law so that we are free and clear, because we don't want in the end that you ain't follow procedure, we allow you to come and then afterwards they want to use that to say, well, this and that and the other, next that the Central Bank didn't follow procedure. We're not getting caught up in that. We don't want to be a part of it. So come, send your names in writing. Are you coming? You're sending somebody? Please tell us the date and time that you would like to come so we could put things in place. So we can ensure that the staff are there to walk you through and show you what happened, all the documentation, everything that you want to see, so you could come and do that. But if that meeting has taken place, Chris, and Mr. Imbert was lying, and there was no such electronic check clearing error, I am certain by now the information would have leaked out of the Auditor General's office and would have found its way in the UNC's hands, and they would have been making mass with that. Chris? So is it that she went to the Central Bank, Chris, interrogated the system, Chris, and realized, hey, he was telling the truth. So there was an error with the electronic check clearing system. But I can't say anything on that because the population sees me as this hero, and I am standing in the gap for them between Imbert and the Ministry of Finance and the Cabinet and the people. And if I come out now and tell them, well, I was wrong and Imbert was correct, how does that make me look? I'm enjoying the limelight. I love people seeing me as this big hero. So for 5 months, since September, she was supposed to have this meeting, and up to now, we ain't hear nothing. So if the meeting hasn't happened, and she was so adamant she wanted to have this meeting, she put it in her affidavit that she submitted to the court, why hasn't it happened 5 months later, Chris? Because this meeting with the Central Bank will prove once and for all if Imbert lying or if he telling the truth. But all you want that meeting to happen. You know why? Because there's no way Imbert could thief $3.3 billion. In addition to which, it is a split transaction, 2.6 billion and 760 million. The 760 million has already been explained. So we only dealing with the 2.6. So if let's say he thieved 3.3, but there was satisfactory explanation for the 7.6, that you all claim he thieved, but it was explained. So we know that wasn't stolen. So we're dealing with the second half, the 2.6. But I hear in figures that Andy Roberts post up 3.8 on his Douglas politics. So apparently, in the time it taken for this matter to be resolved, the figures it grew, right? They pay interest on the 3.3, so it grew to 3.8. Apparently, Chris. So why don't you ask your political leader to inquire? Or better yet, Chris, why don't you file a Freedom of Information request on the Central Bank, Chris? Do us that favor now, since you know. And the information will come to you, Chris, and then you could take a picture of it and you could post it on social media. Or you could send it to kick out the PNM for them to publish it for you since they have a wider following, Chris. But no, all you want that meeting to happen because we need to hug up the lies. We need to hug up the lies, even though Mr. Imbut put it in the public domain that the senior auditor since July of 2024 would have completed the audit. And they told the ministry staff, we are satisfied with the explanation. The documents that you show us and the explanation given after our thorough audit, we are satisfied that there's no money missing. We are satisfied that it was a check clearing error. We are satisfied. The auditors, but you, Chris, you know better than the auditors in the office of the Auditor General, right? Because you're bright. You have a PhD in accounting and a PhD in auditing, so you know better than them. So you could come here and talk this nonsense. Our own money missing and where the money going and all kind of foolishness, and I trying to chain you up. Look, you and Dave, really? This is why the population does not support the UNC. That is why Rodney Charles could say nobody of integrity wants to associate themselves with the UNC. And as long as you all continue to prop up their lies, we will see through it. We see through it. You all are upholders of wrongdoing. That is what you are. Because you keep defending your party in the background of wrongdoing. Why you don't call for them to get rid of David Lee? You happy to have a man present himself to be screened and selected to run for a seat, and he has a case before the court where he's on $1 million bail? Are you happy with that, Chris? Are you happy with that, Dave? That is the caliber of people that you offer into the population? Are you happy to have a man who is under police investigation for human trafficking and prostitution, Chris and Dave? Is that the caliber of candidate that you want to offer the population, that and to tell us we should vote for that? Are you happy to have a man who was fired from not one but two public utilities companies for gross misconduct sitting in the parliament and to be screened again to run for that seat again and represent you in the parliament? He's a lawmaker. These are men are supposed to be lawmakers and breaking the law. And that is the caliber of people that you all attract. And you want to tell us we're supposed to vote for that. When you all come to talk rubbish about we vote on race and PNM supporters vote on race, my friend, it has nothing to do with race. It's those issues that you all choose to ignore. But when it comes to wrongdoing and allegations of wrongdoing in the PNM, all you have 2020 vision. But when it comes to wrongdoing in the UNC, your party, all of a sudden you all develop cataract and glaucoma in your eye and your ears, and probably your brain too. Anyway, it's 12:49. Let me hear this man and what Bacanali coming with. Leave it there, go ahead.
Dominic?
Yes, leave it there.
What's going on?
All is well.
Look here, boy.
Greetings. Let me hear your Bacanal this morning, or this afternoon.
So, Dominic, yes, now you're going to have programs on a Sunday?
Why is that?
I'm just asking.
No, I will continue my program until they tell me how to stop.
Because now during the week you have to go and meet the Burgesses, or no?
Not at 6 o'clock in the morning.
All right.
Yes.
Dominic, help me out with something now.
No problem, I'll try.
I say only you can help me out with this.
No problem.
You could remember a certain minister to carry back a gun or take back a gun.
I heard about that, yes.
Help out the brother.
I heard that, yes.
You heard that?
Yes, I heard that.
You know who is the person?
I am aware who the person is, yes.
All right. I will leave it there for now.
Leave it there, you word back at Alice. Yes, leave it there. You leave that right there. Okay? But further to that, I would add, for the benefit of Chris and Dave, if there was 3.3 million or 3.3 billion missing, or 3.6 or 3.8, whatever figures you all have, the police would have been involved by now, right? Because this matter was raised in April last year, so almost a year. 9 months. The police would have been involved by now. There is no police involvement because no money missing. And the Auditor General knew that, and you all know that too. And that is why the UNC is making a case of that. That is why it's not a big campaign issue. They will say tongue in cheek, right? But when Munilal could have come out from the very outset and say that he accused the Minister of Finance of lying in terms of inflating the figures, not underestimating, no, inflating the figures to make it look as if the economy performing well and to make it look as if the government doing so well. But he was basically saying, if they had no 64 billion, it's 61, they lie, they add on 3.3 so that they could say they make so much revenue, and contrary to what is being said that the economy is on the brink of collapse, that things doing well. That is basically what Munilal said. Munilal didn't say no money thief. He said, but cook the books. to fool people to think that the government doing better and the economy doing well. So when a senior man in your party saying that, Chris and Dave, he didn't say money thief, he didn't say money missing and unaccounted for. He said they're cooking the books and inflating the figures, creating money out of thin air to make it look as if they're doing so well and managing the economy so well. Don't take issue with me for spreading propaganda. As Munilal say that. So go and talk to he, not me, but you come in here to tell me that I misleading the people. You probably just come. You just reach. Because you couldn't have been looking at this program for almost 2 years and don't know how I operate. As I always say, when I sit in front of this camera or microphone when I was on the radio station, I don't know who's listening to me. And I know people from all walks of life, of all caliber, listened to me. So therefore, I had a responsibility to ensure that what I say can be backed up with evidence. I not come in and talk no stupidness like them two clowns, right? And then for people to call me and embarrass me, well, I hear you say so and so and so, but that is not true. And read for me the facts, as I should have been reading, and embarrass me on air. And I think I talking, yeah, well, listen, I know everything. No, I'm not going through that embarrassment. If I'm not sure and I can't find the information through my research until on such time as I can, I will not speak on it. Okay? Right. Just thought I'd let you all know that. Hello, good afternoon.
Yeah, I just want to find out something.
Mm-hmm.
While Overshe and those people are very interested in your political past, I wonder if you could return the compliment to her and ask her, since she's so interested in knowing about your prior affiliation with the ILP, if she could do us a little favor. Since all media houses have caught reporters, ask her if her station, TV6, ever sent any of their reporters to the High Court to find out whatever became of the EMBD/Monilal matter with the contractors. Because Thursday coming, which is the 6th of February, makes it 3 months since that matter ought to have been heard in the High Court of this country before Justice Seepersad. Not a word from the court, not a word from you all in the media. Since they want to find out about you and the ILP, ask her now if she could give us a little information, a little public interest matter now, if she could find out for us. Elucidate, find and bring it on the TV6 News in the night now, and tell us whatever became of that court matter, that hearing that ought to have taken place on the 6th of November. I would really, really like to know, like all of us. I think she would be doing herself a great credit and a great service to the nation, rather than prying into your political past. If she could do a little delving into the public interest matter that touches on the whole nation, and it involves UNC, it involves a former minister of the UNC government, and their contractor friends. Could you just ask her if she could do that for us?
I will do that.
We are dying to know, because Thursday would make it 3 months where we haven't heard one damn thing about that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. For the benefit of Chris, who's asking me if I'm telling me I'm brave to go up for the PNM at this time. So Suraj Rambachan put out a post on his Facebook page yesterday and reads, "Citizen alert, a nation adrift, leaderless, visionless, with a PNM government on bended knees and hands in the air shouting, 'We surrender.'" And the comments, I'm going to read some of the comments from people who support the UNC. Here what they're saying here. Let's know. So one person says, no different, the opposition is no different than the selfish skirt clingers who keep whispering in Kamala's ear and telling her she could be prime minister again. Another one says, and yet the government in waiting is also one big epic failure who cannot get it together and booked for another defeat at the polls. Another one says, yes, the UNC is far from ready to take the reins of government. The current UNC is woeful and inept, to say it mildly. Another one says, where is it? An ill-equipped alternative that at this time is posing no threat to replace the PNM. And this person is a former UNC councillor. right? Another one says, well, this person is saying that Suruj to the rescue, and he says, I wish I had the support of the citizens. So when you asking me, telling me about I braved for the PNM and so on, so I should go up for the UNC. The UNC who after a whole year have only been able to name 8 candidates and the PNM has 37 on the ground, so that by the time Kamala get her act together and pick 39 because they're not contesting Tobago, by the time she get her 39 together and they could finally go out on the ground, the PNM way ahead. The PNM would probably be on their second or in some cases completing their 3rd rounds of the constituency. And I already have my message for that from Malaba Mausika. So whoever they send, let them come. Let them come. They will already at a disadvantage. And you see that disrespect that your leader and the other members of your party showed to Lisa Morris Julian, who was their parliamentary colleague for over 4 years and couldn't even attend her funeral. Put the politics aside. You see that disrespect that they showed? Malaba Mausika will make them pay for it. Because just in 1 week, the amount of people who have told me what Lisa Morris Julian did for them. And so it reinforces what the Prime Minister said at the funeral, that Lisa was the best MP. I went on Friday, was it? No, not Friday, sorry, I traveled on Thursday evening on my way home. I decided to stop off because there was a long day, board meetings, all kind of thing. And I went to KFC and drive-through in Twin City. As I pulled up to the window, the cashier says to me, I know your face. Where I know your face from? I said, you probably saw me on television over the last couple of days. She says, you are W. Mara? I said, yes. She's like, oh my gosh, I live in your constituency, yeah? So I had to vote for you. She said, Miss Lisa, real help me. She said, I'm a single parent with 5 children, and Miss Lisa, real help me. And when that morning, when we hear she died, she said, I broke down crying here in the restaurant. She could ask my co-worker. Right? She said, Lisa helped plenty people. And she started to cry right there by the window and had to close it and go and compose herself in the back. And a number of people in W. Mirror, now Malaba Mausika, have told me that Lisa went above and beyond to help them. Right? Above and beyond. So that when your party, the leadership of your party, didn't have the common decency to attend her funeral, their parliamentary colleague of over 4 years, trust me, that is going to figure prominently for this election. In there, let them come. Let me hear how you're going and explain that. The disrespect, that is what you're showing, total disrespect. Because when you go on Munilal Facebook page, the day after Lisa's funeral, he went to a funeral though, and the day after that, he could have made the time to go to a funeral for people who he probably didn't even know in his constituency or probably knew fairly well. But your parliamentary colleague of over 4 years, who died in the most tragic of circumstances, along with 2 of her children, you all didn't have the common courtesy and decency to attend her funeral or even to reach out to her husband to extend condolences. Malaba Mausika will make sure that you all pay for that. Say I didn't tell you. Trevor says we should never forget the total disrespect for Lisa Morris. Never. Exactly. Total disrespect. That's what it was. And when you disrespected her, by doing that, you disrespected the constituency. Because Lisa wasn't, even in the parliament, Lisa wasn't one to attack them. You know, as you have some people who will give them the knockout punch. Lisa had a way that when she contributed in the parliament, she would do it in the most gentle way. She would be powerful, but yet still, you know, in this subtle way. Like a teacher scolding a student. That's how she used to do it. Right? And she made a powerful impact in just 4 years and a little more in W. Mirror. So they don't tell me already, hey, that is a very hard act to follow. I have not had one bad word from anybody so far about Lisa Morris Julian. Right? And they will not forgive. And I will make sure that they are reminded that the people who come in now to you from the UNC to offer themselves and tell you they will do this and do that, but they didn't even have the common courtesy to show decency and attend Lisa's funeral. Let them come. Wait till. I'm going to take this last call here. Hello?
Dominic?
Yes, sir.
You can do me a favor. You see the rolling your red from to answer the distractor on your live.
Mm-hmm.
Could you like put post that up and so like people like me could share it?
Sure.
Because you see, why I'm saying that is because you're only posting up what just that one Lord said, and that has been edited to reflect what she was speaking about.
Yes.
Because in terms of what they actually the Privy Council Lord was saying in her contribution, in her thing, is that the office of the Auditor General had to be protected from political interference, right? Because of what it contains, and if you want to have all these set of like you're being above board and thing, because once you have the political directorate interfere with that, you could have serious corruption. Now, if you put other parts of it, people understand that the trial there was never about any missing money. It involved number one, and any stolen money. She is just trying to say, as you correctly saying, because if you understand what it's all about, you would know it, the thing that she don't want to be investigated. And I am asking myself as a public figure who pays taxes, why? Because as I just said, the importance of her office is to be political free from interfere with it. But she also has a duty to be above board and accountable.
Yes.
And she's accountable to the public. So through the system, I think she falls under, I think who gives the appointment, I think is the president. She needs to account. So if we get when you go to this office to get the information, a freedom of information on what actually happened over thing, and take that to the president, then we'd like her to answer yes or no between the arguments between them. But I think it may be a little bit too early, because we have to know what is the next step that is going to be taken. I know that the law ruled that the finance minister will also have to explain what she is saying about him, and that could be done, be easily done. I don't know if there is going to just don't include her in the investigation and continue with it. But then again, a lot of things will right back to her, because you still have the Ministry of Finance and the Central Bank giving their side of the story of what have transpired with the mishap and why the public accounts have been taken and whatever. There's where her part needs to be answered. So somewhere, somehow, she needs to be held accountable to the people of Trinidad and Tobago. Because what is being said by the officers, I do not think that the finance minister could command all these people to lie for him. And then again, you see Central Bank don't play, because the Central Bank governor, has all his document and everything and the timeline and those things. So once you present that to the probe and the people in the finance side, the person right under the minister who runs the ministry itself, provided their part of their story. She also needs to provide her part of the story in order for it to be settled with this thing, because this is a serious matter. We can have people playing politics with our public accounts. That is madness. So this is what I want you to do. If you can do it, I don't know, it may be very hard, however, if you get help. If you could get that statement and put it and print it.
I just posted.
I would like to share that.
I just posted it. I just posted it on the Facebook page. Right. So for those of you who are interested in reading the judgment, I just posted it on the Debunking UNC Lies with Facts Facebook page. So it's there. You can go and read it to your heart's content. If you care to read all 60 paragraphs, or you just want to read 2 or 3 or whatever, it is there. So for the benefit of Chris and Dave, who say that I am spreading misinformation and I am misleading the people, it is there for you to read, and you will see what it was about. It's the Auditor General, as I said before, seeking to have herself removed as a subject of the investigation. So she don't have to answer any questions where Mr. Imbert claimed that she refused to take calls from the permanent secretary. She refused to respond to emails from the permanent secretary, that she wasn't answering WhatsApp messages. Further to that when they couldn't get onto her, they reached out to the the Deputy Auditor General and Mr. Imbert spoke to him about the matter, and he said that he would speak to the Auditor General and he would get back to the Ministry of Finance. He never got back to the ministry. All of that is on the parliamentary channel, where Mr. Imbert would have given a detailed chronicle of what happened before, when it was now found out, and before the matter came before his desk. All of that, it is there. And I will try to find that video and I will play it for you all, and we will post it on the page too, so you could listen to Mr. Imbert. All of the information is there. And all of these allegations that she has never denied and has not responded to, right? Mr. Imbert is saying she should be made to answer to these. And if all is saying that my conduct should be, if Lady Simla is of the view that my conduct, which conduct? The conduct that she, the Auditor General, makes representations about, that I try to bully her and force her to accept the amended report and the amended statements and so on, and that we backdate and all them kind of things. She made those allegations against the minister and the ministry, and Lady Semla is saying, in the same way, allegations have been made against Jaiwanti, and they want Jaiwanti to answer, that Mr. Imbert should be made to answer to the allegations, or should be investigated for the allegations that Jaiwanti made against him. Nothing else. It has nothing to do with him being accused of taking any money. The investigation she's talking about is the claims made that he was a bully and that he tried to force her to do something that she didn't want to do, that she felt might have been unlawful, and that he was stepping out of his bounds. Right? That is what it is. And I make the point that the 5 law lords who presided over this matter, Lady Semla was the only person who was of that view. The other 4 made no representations of such. All right? I know I said last call, but I'll take this last one and then I bust in, because, yeah. Gotta go. Hello, good afternoon.
Okay. Well, good afternoon, Dominic.
Good afternoon, sir.
Well, when the Auditor General go to the ministry to do the audit of these ministries, if there is discrepancies or let me say mistakes in the accounting, they give the ministry time,
yes,
to find out the mistakes and then bring it to the Auditor General knowledge what has happened to it, and she make the correction and then post it out. This is not what happened.
Right.
She just take up that there's money missing in this ministry, and she doesn't want to hear nothing about how it is missing and how the answer from the minister or the ministry or for the people of them who working in those ministries give the account of the monies. She doesn't want to hear nothing about that. This is what I find is mischievous about the Auditor General.
Yes.
According to you, she doesn't want to answer no question, and she must answer the question. Thank you very much for all information. Look on and listen as usual.
Thank you, sir.
And I associate someday you'll be working with you up in where's Maloney?
Malabar Mausika.
Okay. Malabar Mausika.
Yes.
Okay, yes. Thank you very much.
You're most welcome. Right, so that's it for me today, folks. Is what after 1? Well, it's after 1 here, it's after 2 by you. All right, so I have to run out and do some stuff, some light shopping and whoever else, yeah. Conclude my business over the course of the next 2 days and then head back home to start campaigning. So to meet with my campaign team when I get back, my constituency executive, and we chart the way forward. So, yeah. Election bell on the road to election 2025. Yeah, so we welcome all those who wish to come and work with us. And yeah, Rudy Nicholas says the country needs to borrow money because we're operating on a deficit budget. A 3 billion decrease in revenue will greatly diminish the country's capacity to borrow. That is so true. That is so true. And that is why it's important to get that figure correct. And I trust that the IMF, not the IMF, it's the IMF, yes, who would have met with the UNC last week. These are the things that that they would be looking at as well. And again, for those who still questioning and talking about money missing and whatnot, as I said, the issue about the electronic check clearing system is in the central bank's progress report for the 3rd quarter of last year. Go and read it now. They said there were issues with the system, teething problems because it was a new system. It is there. It is there. So why hasn't Jayanti spoken on that yet? I just asking the question. But maybe Chris and Dave could find out for us if she met. They could ask Kamala to ask her if she went to the central bank and what was the outcome. See, what's the trouble having to file freedom of information request now? Because I've done that on numerous occasions. I find it take too long. It take too long, you know? So I really don't have time for that right now because we're in election mode. I see Chris talking about I'll be an opposition MP. Well, at the end of the day, it's about serving the people, right? Okay? I'm not going in there for self-aggrandizement. I'm not going in there because the decision to contest or to throw my hat in the ring was not initiated by myself. It's because a lot of people were calling me and say, oh, God, throw your hat in the ring now, gosh, come on, man, we want to see you there, and whatnot and whatnot. I had to think about it long and hard before I made that decision because, of course, that is going to upend a lot of things in my personal life, right? Which I have to be willing to sacrifice to do the work, which I don't mind. Okay, so it means I'm going to have to make a lot of adjustments to things. You all know I love to travel, and as an MP, your wings are clipped. Okay, you can't just pick up yourself and leave without getting the permission of the Speaker of the House and all of these different things. So like how I may know when I could just decide, because I was supposed to travel in April, I was supposed to go to Barbados in May. Yeah. So then I'm supposed to be back in Miami in June. So there's a lot of traveling. So all that had to take a back seat. Okay, but at the end of the day, when you decide to offer yourself a public service, it comes with a measure of sacrifice, and I have no problem doing so. Unfortunately, I don't have the trappings of family in terms of wife and children and stuff that could impact, but so it gives me at least a period of time that I'm a little more free than some MPs to be able to really serve the people in the way that they should be. All right. So thank you all again so much for joining me this morning. I could have run out early, but I had to deal with this because I get real upset when I see in some of these comments, misinformed comments, right? There is no money missing. There was never any money missing. And the information is there. Anybody who is truly interested in finding out, the information is there. Okay? So, and I'd say, while he's shopping, pick up a couple reading and coloring books to Chris. Bless one said they took down PNM Powerhouse, Marlene McDonald, and feel they could overthrow the PNM, but failure. Yes. Carol says women will come knocking at my door. I feel, Carla, I need a bodyguard. Folks, enjoy the rest of your Sunday, the rest of your weekend. As I always say, keep safe on the nation's road and may this be a productive week. And we will chat again on Thursday morning, not Tuesday, because as I said, we're behind an hour here. I ain't getting up 5 o'clock here, 5:30. Okay, so yes, Thursday I'll be back and we will chat again. We will talk about this video with Trinidad and Tobago purchasing fuel from Jamaica and other things that seems to preoccupy the minds of our erstwhile citizens. All right, and to the UNC trolls as well, welcome. And please share the live, encourage your colleagues to join as well, particularly on YouTube, because the more of you that view, the more money I make from YouTube. All right, so that's it for me there. So Shell says we'll take turns to guard. Thank you so much. Thank you, Victoria. Thank you, bless one, and all you guys. Yeah, and to Chris and Dave, you all have a good Sunday afternoon as well.